Madam Clerk, I know we were having some technical difficulty. Are you,
Good morning, Madam Mayor.
is it okay if I start?
We are ready to start if you give us just a second.
Okay.
All right. Good morning, Madam Mayor. We are ready to go.
All right, thank you so much. All right, we will call the meeting to order for the Reno City Council and Redevelopment Agency for March 23rd, 2022. And Madam Clerk, we are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would love if Mr. Woodley would lead us in the pledge. Mr. Woodley, it's all you. Did he, Mr. Woodley?
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great job, Alex. All right, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Breckus?
Here.
Dewar? Absent at this time. Delgado? Here. Weber? Here. Jarden?
Here.
Reese?
Here.
Sheevy?
Here.
Madam Mayor, you do have a quorum of the Reno City Council.
All right, perfect. We're going to go into item A3, Madam Clerk, public comment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our first item today is public comment. It should be noted for those in the audience that comments are to be addressed to the mayor and council as a whole. Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the council's agenda. Please note that council may not take action upon any matter not agendized. When you are called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking. The timer will begin when you say your name, and you will be afforded 3 minutes. Lastly, while in this room, please be respectful. Warnings will be issued by the presiding officer if there is disruptive behavior, and you will be asked to leave chambers. If you are in our Zoom meeting and you'd like to participate in public comment, please raise your hand at this time. Our first public commenter today is Terry Brooks.
Good morning, Terry.
Good morning. Good morning, it's me, Terry Brooks again. And today I'd like to address social interaction and health in the case of homelessness. Social interaction can be a major factor in health, just like money can be a major factor in wealth. A lot of people, when they socially interact, can learn a lot from a friend about local doctors and who they'd recommend. And then from those doctors, they can receive recommendations about help with ways of healing and certain medications. Most people like to share and sometimes even advise what they know about healthy diets and healthy exercise. Being around other people can be a healthy situation and can really help a lot in the process of adaptation. But if you're homeless and don't have much interaction, and you're going through an unhealthy time, you can lose some traction. Without social interaction, you may find yourself in seclusion, which can eventually lead to a state of confusion. Not having helpful knowledge will not suffice when you don't have other people to give you good advice. Not having close friends who are willing to share goodwill won't help you recover when you are ill. Having friends at home or at work can really lift your spirit, but it doesn't do any good if you're not there to hear it. Not having others to share important information can lead you to find yourself into a state of frustration. Having social interaction can really make you stronger, but without it, you may find yourself suffering for even longer. I would like to thank you all for listening to me today, and I look forward to coming back when I have even more to say. By the way, that was chapter 27.
I love it. Thank you so much, Terry.
You're welcome.
All right, Madam Mayor, with that, we have no additional public comment. For the record, we received 5 comments which were general in nature or not directly associated with an agenda item prior to 4 p.m. yesterday, March 22nd. These comments were written correspondence received via our reno.gov online portal or by email to our office. Copies of these have been distributed to the Reno City Council and are available to the public on reno.gov. We had 1 comment in favor and 4 comments concerned. Additionally, we did receive 1 voicemail. However, we're having some technical issues with Zoom and cannot broadcast that out, so that comment has been transcribed and is a part of the official record. And we have no additional public comment.
All right, thank you so much, Madam Clerk. I'm going to send it to our city manager, Doug Thornley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In advance of item A4, I need to pull item D1, it's the naming of Midtown Alley. We have some more work to do on that before it comes in front of the body for final consideration. But no other changes to today's agenda.
Move to approve.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, item A5, approval of the minutes.
Move to approve.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, we're going to head into the consent agenda. I'm going to ask, Madam Clerk, do you have any public comment on consent agenda?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We do have a public commenter for the consent agenda, Casey Crispin.
Okay.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm here to express appreciation to the council and mayor and express it to Councilmember Reese for item B10 on your agenda, the transfer of funds from travel and training to special event sponsorship. This is going to be supporting our farmers market, which is our only year-round farmers market in Nevada. And I am a local farmer. I'm also the director of the local nonprofit Local Food Network. And our event is seeking to become the biggest little city's top destination for local food, local art, and healthy lifestyles. And this event that we're doing on May 7th is an extended format farmers market. So we're going to be splaying out on Riverside Drive in a very charming setup of local farms and family activities. So Councilmember Reese, those funds are going to directly support that. I also want to extend appreciation to Councilmember Breckus for the support of something very similar last August. That was a great success. And I just want to note that every amazing city has an attractive and vibrant farmers market that everybody talks about and everybody tries to go down to. And our intention from the beginning with this farmers market that we've been running for now almost 5 years has to become that destination on Riverside Drive. Not only to support the local farms and artisans that come out, but to support a healthier community and family activity each week. So the council's support and voting of yes on that item will certainly further that endeavor. Thanks so much.
All right. What time is that on May 7th?
It's going to be 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk. All right, no further public comment, I assume?
Madam Mayor, we have no additional public comment.
Okay. I'm going to start with Ward 1, consent agenda items.
Thank you, Madam. I'd like to pull items B2 and B3.
Can you repeat that?
B2 and B3.
Okay. Councilman Reese. Councilman Delgado. Vice Mayor Darden. Councilman Dorr. No. Councilman Weber. All right, thank you. All those in
Move to
favor?
approve.
All right, I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. I'm going to send it to Councilman Breckus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could we get a presentation? This is an issuance of, let's see, a pledge of $60 million. The resolution of intent to issue $60 million in debt.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Deborah Lochner, Finance Director, for the record. I will give you a brief presentation. I'll share my screen. And if I can find my, hang on a second. Okay. So what we have for you today is a resolution regarding the city's intention to issue tax-exempt general obligation bonds. So the city has large grant funded projects, the Public Safety Center and the Aquatic Center at Moana Springs. And there is $60 million is needed in additional funding to bring those projects to completion. Staff has reviewed several scenarios to bring these projects to conclusion and determined the best option for us is to issue tax-exempt general obligation bonds. So the resolution before you is the council's intention to issue general obligation bonds and authorizes the finance director to implement council's direction. The city benefits from completion of the Public Safety Center and the Aquatic Center at Moana Springs. The community benefits from having these public amenities that have long been needed. And the world benefits because we are including sustainability options within the projects to combat global warming. So staff recommends that council adopt the resolution.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Go ahead, Councilman Breckus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ms. Lochner, you sent me a chart of our actuals on budgeted, and it looks like FY21 actuals, we're only paying $458,000 of general fund for debt. Is that correct?
In which year?
21 actual?
Fiscal year 21 actual, we have debt service of $458,799.
Does that include the shortfall on the revenue bonds for the event
Does
center?
not include the transfer of C-tax to pay for those revenue bonds. This is just the general fund obligations.
Okay, and that's pretty much like the fire apparatus. I think the Axion contracts, is that correct?
Yes, just a few small meetings that the city has on the books.
How much did we have to send over, transfer in general fund over to pay off those revenue bonds that year? Do you recall?
I do not recall.
Was it more than the 458,000, do you think?
No.
Okay. And then when we start paying the debt schedule on this, what's the first year debt payment, the annual?
The debt payments for this new debt will be $3.9 million
A year?
per year.
So we're going from $458,000 right now in debt service to 3.9? What did you say?
3.9 plus the 400. So
Okay. So 400,
4.3.
okay, so about 4 million and we're at 400,000. That's a huge jump in debt that obviously, if we only have the other categories as salaries and wage and employee benefits, services, supplies, and capital is going to have to cut in against the rest. Let me ask you, so that's a concern to me and why I've continued to argue that we should use the ARPA funds to at least do one of these projects, get it out of the way and not take on that sort of debt. But I just want to daylight that this year, or 21, actual is $400,000 in debt. Next year, it looks like we're going almost $4 million in debt. That's a big presumption of debt to my analysis of the general fund budget, which is about 256 right now. Is that right?
yes.
Okay, 256.
200.
Next point is, with the 60 million, are we done with the pool? The bond proceeds from this, does this get us to the pool? Done.
That's my understanding.
What about the police station?
My understanding is this is the maximum budget is set once we issue these bonds
Okay.
for both projects.
Let me ask Mr. Manager. Mr. Manager, will this 60 million complete those two projects as currently anticipated and designed by the council?
Director Lochner's answer is correct. So that would set the maximum budget for those two projects. And it is our understanding through working with the city engineer and our folks who maintain facilities that is money enough to complete those projects in a satisfactory way.
Okay, so those two are done, and then the rest is just to start to think about a fire station. Okay.
Councilman Reese, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to make sure that the public understands my position on the issuance of debt. And so I'll use that also as an opportunity to respond to some of my colleague from Ward 1's concerns. I get it. There's an election. My colleague from Ward 1 wants to pen a mailer that says somehow the city is being irresponsible with their debt position, but that's just not true. I mean, the reality is we have resourced this community for many years. The debt position that we take on is not the same debt position that people take on in, say, their personal lives or with their mortgage. And so, the member from Ward 1 continues to believe that this is akin to that, when the reality is the government is in a different business. We're in the business of providing a service to this community. The Ward 1 member has voted repeatedly against firefighters, police officers, our parks and recreation, public facilities, and we don't have the luxury of doing that anymore. That was done for too long in prior times, but given the economic climate and circumstances, we have to use debt at times as an instrument. Ms. Lochner, I believe that over the course of 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 7 votes on this subject, you have continued to identify the reality of debt financing. Is that correct?
That is correct. And I'd like to point out, when you look at the mix of our general fund, when you add the $3.9 million debt service in, it really only equates to about of our general fund operating costs.
And I apologize, the Zoom cut out exactly at the moment when you said the percentage. So can you just say that again?
It's
Yeah, and so again, I don't want the headline to be debt goes from 400 some thousand to 4 million, because that's not accurate. I mean, that's just not laying out the full picture. The Financial Advisory Board has seen all of this work. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And they haven't raised any red flags about it. Is that true?
That is true. They support it.
Yeah, and so again, I'll ask you, Ms. Lochner, do the revenue projections for the city and our budget position, do they support the use of bond financing in this circumstance?
Yes, they do.
And given the priorities we have as a council for public safety, for public recreational amenities, for the things that this community has asked us for, does this support that ongoing effort?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you, Ms.
And
Lochner.
and just for the public, if you want to hear all about this, we will be having our first study sessions on the budget on March 29th, 30th, and 31st.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Councilwoman Jordan.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Ms. Lochner, for your presentation. This is an exciting day, and any sort of dark cloud put on it is unfortunate, because I know the community and my constituents have been very eager for years, even decades, to see more recreational facilities be in this community, to be able to swim, to be able to stay healthy, and certainly in a wonderful, sustainable way, as well as our public safety center. I say it often that the Reno Police Department has been woefully facilitated, I don't know if that's the right word, for decades. And I'm talking should have probably been closed down bad facility, and to not use a finance structure that is responsible and makes sense. I mean, all of us who have run businesses or have property understand when it's appropriate and smart to finance and incur debt versus use cash and other options. Those of us that understand finance know that. And I appreciate the council's effort, the majority of the council, in moving these projects forward. This is the sort of debt, I know we can look backwards and people would question, I don't know, whether the trench or whatever. I didn't sit in the seat at that time. I'm not going to throw rocks at prior councils on something they incurred debt on in the past, but these are things that I hear quite often about the importance in our community. This is a very prudent and important step forward to provide our community the things with regards to safety and recreation that is demanded of our constituents. So I am fully supportive of this, and I thank you again, Ms. Lochner.
Okay, Councilwoman Dewar.
Yeah, thank you. all, and thanks, Ms. Lochner. And thanks, Ms. Breckes, for pulling this, because I was going to pull it myself. The reason I was going to pull it is I am incredibly proud of the projects that are contemplated here and the work the city's done to get us there. These projects are way overdue. You know, we've had the police officers sitting in jail cells for decades in the old police station. I've toured it many times. We have evidence in a different part of town. We have the dispatch center in a different part of town. I mean, it's a distributed way that doesn't create the efficiencies. On the pool side, which is really an aquatic center, which I believe has 3 swimming areas or 3 water areas, a gym that it would be available for use without having to pay fees to a private gym, a community meeting room, which we have desperately needed in this part of town. I often end up having to rent the Atlantis or rent the Moana Nursery just to have a meeting with constituents. We would finally have a meeting room where the public could come and meet. The projects speak for themselves, and I have just spoken for them, but I want to speak to the money side of it. I happen to chair the Debt Management Commission and have for over 6 years. And this is a group of not just people that are a finance advisory board to city, but are drawn from all of Washoe County, includes the former CFO of Washoe County. And we sit and evaluate all of the debt, any debt that is proposed, and that's a precursor to getting to the council. And we really put Ms. Lochner through her paces. We asked everything, including coverage ratios, challenges on debt, previous debt issuances. And I was wondering, Ms. Lochner, you have sent to me, and I think you have right at hand, the debt chart that we look at, which I think we just all should be mindful of. And I don't know if you could share your screen if you have it handy. It basically shows the debt, where we were and where we are. And I think it's an incredibly helpful just picture to look at. I'm looking at it, in fact, in front of myself, and as I recall, at the peak, we were at $648 million in debt. I think we're currently in the 440s, somewhere in there. And so we have paid down debt. That's all we've done as a council. We haven't been able to do anything, fix a police, plan for a headquarters, deal with swimming that so many people have asked us to do. And this, we finally have an opportunity because we've been so careful for the almost 8 years I've been on here, not doing fun stuff, not doing stuff we needed, not doing stuff people asked for. We finally have an opportunity because of good financial management to actually, take on something. And do you have that chart, Ms. Lochner? You don't have it handy?
I don't have it handy.
Well, if I could show you my phone, I have it, but it's roughly a $200 million, it's somewhere between $170 and $200 million that we have paid down debt. And I think we're in a good position at this time to make this kind of investment in the community. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Lochner, just one couple questions. How often do cities use this method?
Well, it really depends on the city and their needs. Some of those, like Henderson, uses debt a lot, as what I've heard from my bond counsel. The city of Reno has been focused on getting into a much more resilient area within our budget. And so we've focused on paying down debt and restructuring debt in such a way to where we could take on debt. So that is, it is something that cities use all the time in order to complete large projects. And to remind the public and the council that these projects are also significantly cash funded as well. So it's not being 100% funded with the bond.
Yeah.
It's about half, each one of them are about half cash funded.
And don't you have to be in strong financial footing to be able to do this?
Well, sure, you have to prove to the rating agencies that you're in strong financial footing in order to get a good rating, to get a good price on your bonds.
And that takes a lot of planning, and it's sort of over a long period of time, correct?
So we do a presentation to the rating agencies, but it is over a long period of time that we've worked to get our finances in such a situation to where in the last 4 years, we've received 2 or 3 rating upgrades on our existing bonds. So that's put us in a better position when we do go and issue bonds. We get a lower rate on those because we have a good rating and a good reputation with the bond market.
Right, and I would say this council has been very fiscally conservative, paying down the debt by millions. So does that give them assurance as
millions.
well? Hundreds
Yes,
of
it
millions.
does.
Hundreds of millions.
Yes, so they look at a variety of things, and part of that is your total general obligation debt position. And because we have been able to restructure debt and pay down a lot of our debt, and in fact, we paid off $18 million of sewer debt just last year. That all goes to show that we are in a very strong financial position and will help us get a better rating.
Okay, thank you very much.
And what is our rating? She said better. Did you say, Debbie?
So currently we are, I believe, a AA- with a stable outlook.
Great.
All right, thank you. Any more questions? Seeing that there are none, all those in favor of voting for police and pools? I have a motion. I have a second. All those in
Can
favor
we have
say aye.
discussion on the
Yes, go
motion,
ahead.
Madam Mayor? You know, it really pains me to vote against this. Over 10 years ago, I decided to run for city council, and a big motivator was the falling apart of the Moana pool that had served this community for 3 generations. When other priorities were invested in, namely the trench, but also the event center, ballroom, and bowling stadium, which continue to, be hits to our general fund. But the decision to bundle all these together, I think, goes up against my other concern when I did come onto the council, and that's that the city council had laid off 1/3 of its workforce. And that was really tough times. We're also in very perilous financial condition with cash flow. And having to rebuild that organization with the personnel, I think has been one of the great challenges we've faced, and has made it very difficult to respond to the growth demands that we've had. So those two weigh and tug against me together, and that's why, on balance, I am feeling the need to look at the over totality of protection of the general fund debt in these volatile times. We just went through the pandemic, and we foresaw economic volatility then. We're in a war, in Ukraine. That's showing some economic repercussions in our local economy. I just wish with that pandemic money that had come through that was so robust that the council had made a decision to take that money and put it with our priority underway and let the general fund, the economic conditions sort out a little bit more to see where we're at, particularly as we bring on new staff. We just brought on 20 new RFD firefighters. Some of that was grant funded, but it's going to be absorbed into the budget. We've got, I think, another academy of 20, and we have a police analysis that shows a lot of needs over there, not to mention in other departments as we move into budget and our collective bargaining. So that additional $4 million in debt, I think is going to be an encumbrance. It's not one that I'm willing to support when there's pandemic money on the table right now to pay for these first needs, knock one out, and then move on to our next ones, which, police or fire, they're both in need of new headquarters. But with that, Madam Mayor, I'll be casting a nay vote. Thank you.
And Councilman Reese.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To my colleague from Ward 1, I don't believe it pains you to vote no. I think you enjoy voting no. The problem with your position is that the pandemic money that you're talking about went to support our most vulnerable residents. It paid for rental assistance and food and computers for kids. And so you set up these dichotomies and then want to claim that we have done something that we shouldn't have done when in fact we did exactly what this community needed. There is a saying that says you make hay while the sun shines. I mean, the reality is, and Ms. Lochner has been very careful to lead us in this direction, is that we have at times a necessity to use debt financing, especially on large capital projects like the pool, which I learned to swim in as a child, that this community has asked for a long time. Our police officers deserve, and our community deserves, a headquarters where they can focus on victim impact and service and restorative justice. All of the things that these dollars will go to are the things which this community needs. And at the end of the day, I want to make sure the community understands these are positive things. These are the things that move communities forward, that make our community a place that we want to live. And so the trauma that you are backpacking along to every vote about the recession and trying to restore things, it's just unnecessary. We have an obligation to this community, and there's an intergenerational inequality in making pay-go models where people are not paying for the services which they receive. So, Ms. Lochner, I thank you for the work that you've done to get us in this position. I'm thankful for Ms. Dewar's Financial Oversight Committee, for our Financial Advisory Board. I think debt is never to be used sort of willy-nilly, and I think over at the county commission, one of the county commissioners said that they were spending money like a drunken sailor. I don't think that's what we're doing. I think we're being very discreet and thoughtful and direct with the funds that we have. The resources are necessary, and at the end of the day, our budget is always a reflection of our values. What I value is our public safety. I value our public's access to pool and aquatic resources. I value the opportunity for this community to have the facilities it needs to keep it safe. And so those will be reflected in my yes vote.
All right, Councilwoman Dewar.
Yeah, just a quick thing. At the Debt Management Commission, I believe one of the questions that I asked Ms. Lochner, I think it'd be a very good time to just get that out on the record. I think I asked you, Ms. Lochner, at what point can we prepay on this debt? And so there's a point at which I think they have to hold the bonds and give the bondholders the assurance they are going to get a return on their investment, but there's a point at which we can start chunking down on the debt. And could you just remind us?
Yes, we can, typically a 30-year bond would have a 10-year, the first 10 years you cannot prepay, but
Right.
you can always put money into the bond fund to prepay later.
Right.
And after that 10 years, then there is the ability to call bonds.
Right. And I think we're also, because of our financial standing, you also informed us that it's incredibly low interest rate. Do you want to just stay like that for a minute?
Yes, so we are rated fairly high. We're in that AA minus. Hopefully we'll get up one step, but one step at a time. We also are in a very good position because we have limited debt in our general fund. So when you show and you show the sufficiency, which is what we had to show to the Debt Management Commission, is the sufficiency of our C-Tax to pay all of our obligations that are funded with C-Tax, whether it be primary or secondary. And we're in a very strong position in that as well. We have a significant amount of debt coverage.
And I was just asking, though, the interest rate on that you're expecting.
The interest rates, what we projected for this,
Right.
They built the 3.9 million at 5%, but we somewhere around 2.5 to 3.
What was you cut out there? I'm sorry.
We expect to get around 2.5 to 3%
Right.
when we actually sell the bonds.
Right.
We will have an underwriter that will market them aggressively, and we typically get a very good. Not to say that what's going to happen between now and when we close those bonds
Right.
in July, rates can get very volatile, but we will continue to watch them.
Right. So
point
the
to sell
two
those bonds.
points I wanted to make sure we got on the record from you is that we do have an opportunity after 10 years to prepay, and we have the ability to save for that day as well. So if we have extra cash, and I'm sure our manager and you, Ms. Lochner, will be looking at that, should we be putting money into a fund to potentially prepay? But with the incredibly low interest rates that we have, that we're expecting, you were very conservative with your 5% and your pro forma when you met with us. And you said, I want to be very conservative so that we make sure we have our debt coverage ratios, but we're expecting better, maybe twice as good. So I think those are just good. You know, I know there are nuances. It gets into the details of the financing, but I think it's really important to get out on the record. So thank you.
And also, I just want to state for the record that no new taxes are required to do this, correct? Ms.
That's
Faulkner?
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I just want that on the record. Okay, so I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Motion carries. All right. Congratulations, Pools and Police. Yes. Okay. Moving right along, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're moving on to item B3 as pulled by Councilmember Breckus.
Yeah. This looks like, this was odd to me. I don't recall this coming forward for the council to direct staff to do this. How did this come about? It's a roadway that we're getting for someone?
Yeah, Mike Michelle, engineering manager for the record. It's actually a condition of approval on the Santerre Quilisi project that they provide as secondary access road. And some of the land that this road is proposed to be used is owned by Union Pacific. Okay. And Union Pacific will not sell to a private entity. They will only sell to a public entity. And so in order for the project to move forward, city staff agreed to purchase the property on behalf of the developer and with the stipulation that we would be made whole, and that's the subject of the reimbursement agreement.
What is the Santerre project? Is it a tentative map?
Yes, it is.
So it's a condition of a tentative map?
It's a condition of the tentative map, yes. It was approved by the council on March 24th of last year.
Okay, because conditions of approval are usually for the developer to do something, not for the city to do something. So somewhere, someone made some decision to go spend time on this, and I was just wondering, because our rules are that if we want something that the manager, is not willing to do, we have to bring it to the council to spend more than 2 hours staff time. I presume it's taken you more than 2 hours of staff time to work on this, so I'm just wondering how this got to us. Did they write you a letter, and did you say, we'll go work on this, or how'd you get to this point?
I guess I would describe it as, again, there are conditions of approval that obligate this road to be built.
Okay.
And they can't complete that condition of approval on their own.
Okay. So you thought that them having a tentative map with this condition was a directive to staff to help facilitate that condition. I understand
Yes.
that. I'm just wondering, sometimes things, what's decisions of what gets done versus what doesn't get done. Let me ask you this. I have a couple questions on the road itself, because the maps were kind of hard to tell. But one thing I see on here is from our master plan, our fire facilities and response time. And it looks like this area is it's not even tracked on our response times. It's tracked to a 4, 6, and 8 minute with a new future fire station. Is there a new future fire station that's being built in conjunction with this development?
I believe so.
When is that what's the timing on that?
I'm not sure.
Because I guess, are we jumping the gun here? And another thing is, we're not obligated to buy this road for them. Maybe we should have told them the cost of us doing this effort of buying them the road is you build us a fire station or some other thing, or you have to wait a few years.
Vice Mayor.
And I'll have another round of questions on the dynamics
Thank you very
of the
much.
road.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your work on this. I remember this intimately in the multiple public meetings and the hearings that were both the Planning Commission and here at the City Council. This was a secondary road, was of great concern and interest to the neighbors and the community to have this mode of safety and access into the project. So I appreciate staff's work along with the property owner to find the way to facilitate the condition that was approved by this board. And for doing that work, which is part of what all of our professional work is to facilitate the things in which this board directs you to do. So I appreciate you finding the way to mechanically do this. This isn't totally unusual. We've had some other votes before the council. I think it was with some bonding issues with the university. It's almost like it's the gear by which you need to put in place to make the wheel turn. And so I appreciate your work in this regard and helping to get this done. Again, this was a priority of the condition of approval for the constituents and the neighbors in this area. So thank you for your work on this.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Dorr.
Yeah, thank you. I understand how we got here, and I'm going to support it. But I think it brings up some critical issues for our manager and for the body as a whole, and I wanted to daylight those right now. First question is, in order to do this acquisition, there's legal work entails legal work. Does the legal work get done by the city attorneys or outside attorneys? This is a property purchase, essentially.
I would characterize it as the developer's attorney did most of the legwork on these agreements.
Okay.
When it comes to the purchase agreement, Union Pacific has has just boilerplate.
Right. So I just
agreements.
wanted to make sure that our attorneys, when we do these kind of things, aren't getting tied up in what can be very protracted conversations back and forth with, an organization like Union Pacific, and that if they're paying, that they're not paying our attorneys at our rates, that they're paying their attorneys at their rates to do the work. So that was something I didn't want to off onto us costs that are probably underestimated. In real life, our attorneys would cost 3 times as much, that kind of thing. There's a second and bigger point. And that bigger point is that the railroads in general are monoliths. They are essentially monopolies. There is currently pending in Congress a bill to talk about the status of the railroads. I found out about this through a meeting with the Western Nevada Development District Executive Board. I brought up some proposals for improving our light rail transportation and was asking our board, did they want to take it on? We have a transportation category. Is it something that, we cover 7 counties. Is it something that was generally supported by the group? And they not only thought it was fantastic, and in this case, it was maybe doing the light rail from North Valleys down I-80 out to Trick and other places. But they said, the railroad's very challenging to deal with. And they had been asked out of Fernley and other places to sign on to a congressional bill that would just basically keep things how they are. And I'm not sure we want to keep things how they are. I mean, just this is a perfect example. Maybe what should have been happening is that the individual property should have been acquiring this with our support. Like, we should have signed off on it, said we've done the permits, we approve it, we agree with it, it's fine. Unless it was going to be a public road, then okay, we maybe are the one buying it. But I just think that it brings up the kind of, I'll just say, a little bit of a fraught relationship. And we've seen it throughout our city and throughout the county. And so, Mr. Manager, I'm just asking you to get engaged, just like the city of Fernley is, and other cities and our Cali, our policy folks, JW, in looking at that and seeing what if we do have a position. Because this comes up a lot, where we're entangled with the railroad. Whether it's a retrack or it's a crossing or it's a bridge out at Verdi, I remember. We couldn't get this bridge done. If it's we couldn't get the bike path, if you remember, the Truckee Meadows River bike path because of the railroad. So I'll stop right there, but I just want to say this put the spotlight on an issue I think that we have an opportunity to weigh in on. So thank you.
All right, Councilwoman Breckers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, okay, so they have a tentative, so a finding was made by, I guess it came up to this body on appeal.
Correct.
That there's adequate fire rescue. As I recall, I didn't see that because I didn't see a fire station being built, and I don't think there will be one, but I want to go specifics to this road. The secondary access, will it be a dedicated road maintained by the city, or is it just like an emergency one to get people out of there?
It will be publicly owned and maintained by the city.
Okay, so it's really going to be, if you live up in this community and you need to get out, you're going to use this road, and say you're going to California, Truckee or something, you would be probably more likely to come out of this road. And then how do you get over to head west onto I-80? What do you drive through?
Well, heading east, South Verdi directly connects heading east. To go west, I'd have to look at the map again, to be honest. It may be a bit circuitous to go west.
See, I seem to recall a lot of concern that you basically had to go through main part of Verdi, into the main part of Verdi, and then around to get onto that gold west, the one there. So
You may very well be correct
yeah,
in that.
and then I also seem to recall that on-ramp going east is really short and at a curve. Look, y'all have discretion on how you facilitate this. I understand they have a tentative map, but I would have liked transportation planning, Mr. Manager, that just doesn't secure an access, but that secures routes for this community and says, maybe, if you can't even answer, where this little connection goes and how it, what it does to the rest of the part of the area. I know it's not incorporated out there. It's kind of a problem. I mean, I think we should route this. I think we should hold off and understand, what we're doing and to the eastbound on-ramp and what we're doing to the westbound routing. That's in our discretion. We could be creating a huge problem out there. So let's put all the pieces together on that. Maybe they need to get plugged into the RTC work program. I can't support this. I think that, it's a fully discretionary piece, and it's fine for a developer to have one condition that they have to do this, but we're not facilitators of just one project. We're facilitators of a community that has safe transportation and so on, and good infrastructure. And I don't think that looking at it this narrow, if we're going to put our time into it, that we have to look at the rest of the piece as a public entity. So I can't support this going forward at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The one thing that it concerns me is that if we don't provide access, this puts residents in danger. And then the liability becomes the city. So it sounds great in theory to have someone else pay for it, but at the end of the day, then we put the residents in danger. So I appreciate that, and it's not fair to punish the citizens. So, Vice Mayor Jordan, I think your work.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you to staff's work on this and mechanically finding the way to follow through on what this board's majority vote, which was fully discussed and litigated at length in multiple meetings. Thank you for finding the way to make this happen, and thank you for all of your professional work always. So move to approve.
All right, I have a motion. Second. I have a second.
One other point.
Discussion?
Yeah, allowing this secondary access that will be used for westbound traffic, to my understanding in conversations with our cycling community, because a lot of the long-distance cyclists leave central Reno and head out there, it goes through that routing. And I think it's very irresponsible to be facilitating this connection without looking in and understanding what other improvements need to be made for that cycling community. They are terrified out there, and they have been riding their bikes out there for decades. There's a small community, but they do it a lot in addition to the public folks out there. So I'm not going to support it, but I really, really hope that someone will look into this access and possible conflicts with our cycling community on this well-used route. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And just for our cycling community, I am calling a special meeting on the cycle track and for other pathways, so we can discuss it then. All right, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries. Okay. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're moving on to items, our C items today, which are public hearings. It has been requested that we open items C1 and C2 together so that the presentations can happen at the same time. However, we will need to make a motion on item C1 prior to taking an item on C2. So with that being said, we will open the
we're
public
gonna open
hearings for items
C1.
C1 and C2.
And C2. Okay. And before we do that, Madam Clerk, I want to make a disclosure. In the interest of full transparency, like I've done over the years, I am disclosing the fact that I have a personal relationship with Jessica Sferraza. I understand she has been retained by the applicant as a consultant on this project. On this matter, I have sought guidance from the city attorney's office, and I do not have any commitments or financial ties to Ms. Sferraza. Madam Clerk, please accept this disclosure for the record, and I would like to encourage all council persons to please do the same, to disclose when you need to. Important.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
That being said, I am going to now open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, was proper notice given? Any correspondence received?
Madam Mayor, proper notice was given for items C1 and C2. We did receive public comment for item C2 specifically, 2 comments, 1 in favor and 1 in opposition. Those have been distributed to the Reno City Council and are available on the reno.gov meeting portal. Additionally, we do have 1 public commenter in the audience, if you'd like to take that now.
All right, perfect. Let's do that.
Okay, our first commenter today is Brad Armstrong.
All right, Brad. Hi.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for your service to the city. I'm a local property owner just to the north of the property at question and right across the railroad tracks. I call it the 30 Springs Oasis. It's a beautiful place. When you drive out the road, you can see trees up there, and everybody that leaves Reno and everybody that comes to Reno, that's kind of like the last thing they see and the first thing they see. And I just want to urge you to demand a lot for that area. Many of you have iPhones, and Steve Jobs, the reason iPhone is so good, because he demanded that the people that worked for him did better. And that's just what I'm asking you to do. Demand the very best for that area. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next public commenter is Jean Harris.
Can I wait and speak at about C2?
We're on item C1 and C2 right now.
Okay, so there won't be an opportunity to, okay, very good. Hi, my name is Jean Harrison. I have definitely tried to pare this down, but I'm probably going to run about 20 seconds over, even with my fastest radio voice. So.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm Jean Harris. I reside on 2 acres located on North Virginia Street, 2.5 miles south of this project, where my family has lived for 37 years. 17 years ago, I purchased a vacant 3-acre parcel at the top of Copperfield Drive, which adjoins this development. I sold that parcel in July of last year. I'm familiar with the unique blend of persons and property that make Anderson Acres a special place. I'm not in favor of development in anyone's rural neighborhood. I get it, and boy, do I live it. But like it or not, I know growth is going to occur. In the past 6 years, there have been 8 large warehouses built right in my face. In 2016, I learned how to become a proactive and voice my concerns when an 800,000 square foot warehouse was proposed on 44 open sagebrush acres directly behind my home. I met with the city of Reno planner, who was very helpful. He listened and suggested I contact the developer. In early 2017, I met with Panattoni Development and found everyone to be receptive and considerate. I kept my wish list realistic and received good treatment. All my requests were met and actually exceeded my expectations. I was provided contact information for everyone I needed at Panattoni and Alston, the general contractor. So as questions and concerns arose, I was able to reach the proper person. With this project comes the Echeverria family as property owners. More than 3 generations have lived in the Reno area, and they have engaged with the residents since hosting a neighborhood meeting at their home on Marmac Way in February 2018. I know firsthand they are open to communication, as I contacted them in April of 2017 after receiving notice of the proposed development. Neighbors aren't dealing with a I could care less out-of-state property owner or developer. Both Echeverria and Panattoni are receptive to concerns and input. After 6 years, I have determined that warehouses certainly affect your view, but don't produce as much noise as a housing development, and warehouses don't care what you do on your property. No one's peeking over your fence and wondering if you got a permit for that tool shed. They don't care about barking dogs or livestock odors or that noisy birthday party that went past midnight. Both truck and employee traffic is primarily during business hours, with weekends being quiet. There are no lawnmowers or leaf blowers, car stereos, or someone else's barking dogs. I am here today to report my experiences to the council and encourage neighboring property owners to study the proposed project, list your questions and concerns, and contact Panattoni or Echeverria now. Don't wait until the finished plan is before the Planning Commission to hear your issues. It is very difficult for both Panattoni and the City Planning Department to rewrite portions of the final proposal. You'll have a much better outcome regarding your concerns if you make contact now. Don't be a victim, be proactive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Madam Mayor, and with that, we have no additional public comment.
Okay, thank you. All right. Brooklyn, I think it's all you. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Mayor. Good morning, City Council. It's nice to be in front of you all again. Brooke Oswald, Associate Planner.
I feel like I haven't seen your face in so long.
It's been a couple years, I think.
I know, it's usually on Zoom, but it's nice to see you.
Yes, very nice to see you all. Brooke Oswald, Associate Planner for the record. I am with Development Services. As was mentioned by the City Clerk, we do have 2 cases. We've opened them up together today because they are intimately intertwined and associated together. The first is an annexation. That's the Red Rock Road Trail Drive annexation, and the Peavine Employment, which is a master plan and zoning map amendment. I'm going to quickly run through, because there are so many layers of this, just the anticipated process that we're going to see, and then I'll go into each one of those areas in a little bit more detail. So looking at our process overview, as we look at that ANX stands for annexation. This is a voluntary annexation. We have 2 processes of annexation. One is city initiated within our sphere of influence. The second is a voluntary annexation. That allows a property owner, if they own 100% of the property, to come in as long as they are adjacent to city property, directly adjacent, and request to be annexed into the city and our services. Should be noted that this annexation is not in the sphere of influence. That is very important, how the motions have to happen today, because we do not have jurisdictional control over this property, and it will take that annexation to give us that jurisdictional control that we can further move on and make a decision on the master plan amendment and zoning map amendment. It should be noted, our code does now, Reno Municipal Code requires that a master plan amendment and zoning map amendment come in with an annexation if they are planning to change that underlying zoning or the translation zoning that we'd see from the county. And that is the case in this particular request. So now we're going to move to that Mpa and Zma. That's our master plan amendment and zoning map amendment. The first thing we do is take a translation from that Washoe County land uses. We apply that over. So in this case, we're looking at rural uses. We'll apply those over to a large lot residential, and we're seeing a public facility use that we're moving over there. Then from there, what you're going to see today is that translation happening. And then when the translation happens, we'll go from our translation to city and to the next one. They are requesting a specific plan district. This is something relatively new that we brought in with our code, very similar to a PUD in many ways, and I'll go into a little bit more detail on that. And that MPA and the ZMA, the Master Plan Amendment, Zoning Map Amendment, are contingent on the annexation approval. That's once again very important that we do that one first. What will then happen is that the zoning map amendment will move on to that second reading of the ordinance and for the zoning map amendment. And then if we do move forward with this, the master plan amendment will have to go to regional for conformance. And then we're also going to see that going to regional for a project of regional significance. That is based on employment, traffic, anticipated employment, traffic, and sewage. Then, after it goes through regional and their approval process, it will then come back to City Council for certification of that master plan amendment and then also that SPD handbook. So very similar to a planned unit development, that specific plan development requires a handbook, and you'll certify that at the very end. So all of them have to happen to make it happen at the end. So many, many layers to this onion. Quickly go over the project site. It's 210 acres, approximately 210 acres in North Valleys. As you can see, we have identifying where we are. This is the intersection of I-395 and Red Rock Road. This would be Stead Boulevard. So we're just on the south side of 395 there. We do have a railway line that runs to the south portion of the property. As we're looking, you can see 2 stars to the top. We're seeing some industrial hubs up there. Should be noted the one by Silver Lake is actually a planned unit development, very similar to the SPD and developed under those standards of a planned unit development. Additionally, down and to the east of the project site, down east on North Virginia, we're seeing industrial development happen down in that area. Currently, we have a car wrecker, and some mini warehouse and other uses in that nature. The 2 blue stars represent the federal properties that we have in close proximity and open space in close proximity to this project. And then we're going to look at that residential. To the north of 395, we're seeing denser residential housing happening there. Coming in a little bit closer on the project site, as we look at this, once again, the gray star representing the intersection of Red Rock Road and 395 on those exits there. We are looking surrounding uses being predominantly rural residential neighborhoods, larger lot, single family. We do have a zoo in that area also. And then bringing in out of that total of 210 acres, approximately 44 acres of that are an annexation, and the bright yellow is representing that annexed area that we'd be looking at. So going over the annexation really quickly, as I mentioned before, this is not in the sphere of influence. So we're looking at our project site just off Red Rock Road, 395 again. That's the approximate annexation site is in that area. As we look at our sphere of influence, as you can see, the purple represents that sphere of influence. The sphere of influence is the area that this body has jurisdictional authority over, and we are able to use our apply Reno Municipal Code and other code and ordinance in these areas. As you notice, there is a very distinct island within our sphere of influence in that area, which we do not have jurisdictional control over at this point. This is most likely a remnant from the Reno Stead Joint Corridor Plan and the rural character that has been sunsetted by both the county and Truckee Meadow Regional at this point and is no longer active. And that's where we're anticipating that happening. As we look at those city boundaries, our city boundaries wraps this and creates basically a peninsula that comes down into the project site on that, the yellow representing the city boundary. Once again, this annexation, we are adjacent on both the north and south of this property to city property. And there's 100% ownership coming in, and through Nevada revised statute, it is allowed for them to request an annexation into the city. It does create an island of approximately 60 acres. That is one of the considerations you have to make while looking at this. Staff looked at this two ways. Even though it's creating an island one way, with that annexation, we're actually reducing that island of our sphere of influence. And so there's kind of a back and forth of what we're looking at in that jurisdiction on that. This area is in the Truckee Meadows service area. It's currently in the county. As it would be annexed, it would come into the city's jurisdiction and overview. And then that it is a regional tier 2 designation of that. The regional tier 2 suburban development, but we are seeing hubs of denser commercial and industrial in that tier 2. Those services and utilities are either planned or in place to service these in the regional tier 2. Quickly, just to look at the development context of this area, this is a map going back a little over 10 years ago. To quickly give you where we are, this is Lemon Drive, Stead Boulevard, and Red Rock Road. Our project site approximately in the area of the White Star. I think this is important of looking at that star, that proximity to 395, those other areas we have. This is about 10 years ago. Our next one coming in about maybe 5 years ago. And then finally, this is the most current aerial within the last couple of years. As you can see, we've seen rapid growth along that North Virginia corridor of those logistics and warehousing uses along there. This project site itself we do have additional some additional industrial lands, and the project is about a half mile down North Virginia Street from where we're seeing that development. Additionally, it should be noted that the Reno Transportation Commission, their 2050 plan, currently the area between Lemon Drive and Stead Boulevard are under planning and will be expanding in construction to accommodate the additional traffic. That 2030 plan, 2050, anticipates that we will see improvements happening from Stead Boulevard to Red Rock Road, improving on North Virginia Street. Quickly looking at, just to go over the master plan and what we're seeing changing, that's going from a large lot and public, quasi-public, to a mixed employment and parks, greenways, and open space. This is that transition that we're seeing between, as we bring the annexation in, those 40 acres up above and the large lot below, that will be coming into a mixed employment and parks, greenways, and open space. As you can see by the diagram, what we're seeing, that green is representing that parks, greenways, and open space. And as you can see, they've maintained that around the borders to create buffers. They've also overlaid those over those major drainage ways to avoid potential impacts on that. Now, as we look at that, our zoning code, currently that property, there is about 170 acres of this that is in that large lot residential, 2.5 acres required per unit. As they move, and then there's a small little public facility, and then we'll be moving that to a specific plan district. So quickly to go, or a specific plan district. So to quickly go over a specific plan district, what that does, it's similar to a PUD, but what it does is it bases itself on an established zoning. That zoning that they're using is that mixed employment. And then with that, they provide a handbook that provides or allows them to make modifications to that zoning. So what they've done is gone from the mixed employment. They have allowed for 24-hour operation. They've created a commercial node. They've allowed buildings over 500,000 square feet to be built, which is limited in that ME zone. And then what they've created is they've created enhanced buffer screening and landscape to help mitigate some of the impacts. They've protected those major drainage ways, and then they have an enhanced sustainability requirements. The public input on this, because of the master plan, it does require that they do a neighborhood meeting that was conducted by the applicant via Zoom. Staff was in attendance of that. Many of the questions regarded actual design and impacts of design, walls, where traffic would go, and a number of those things. Should be noted, we'd anticipate, if approved, that those large building footprints would require additional discretionary review by Planning Commission, most likely for cuts and fills happening on that. So that would become in the public process where you could further look at those minute details of those neighboring properties. They also had gone to the NAB. There were comments and information provided that night. Comments in concerns were noted, and then also comments in support of the project. And then we've additionally received public comments that have been forwarded to this body, both in favor and opposed to the project. Going to the Planning Commission's recommendations, staff report did recommend to the Planning Commission approval of both the Annexation Master Plan Amendment and Zoning Map Amendment. As heard, when heard at the Planning Commission, there were concerns about rural character master plan thoughts on that. Two motions were taken. Your Planning Commission does not look at annexations. They only were recommending on the Master Plan Amendment, Zoning Map Amendment. The Master Plan Amendment was 4 in favor, 3 opposed. That does require 2/3 of the majority, so it would require 5 votes, and it was a recommendation of denial on the Master Plan. The Zoning Map Amendment was moved to approve with 4 in favor and 3 opposed. So I'll leave you with 2 motions. Once again, the annexation needs to happen first. These are all interrelated, so they're a little bit more complex on how these have to move forward and go forward, and the other additional review stages that we'll have through this process. With that, that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
All right, thank you so much, Brooklyn. Really appreciate it. Okay. Mr. Gordon.
Yeah, good evening, or good morning,
morning.
Madam Mayor, council members.
Did you say good evening?
I did say good evening. Feels like it.
Right. Okay, good morning, or good afternoon.
Good afternoon. For the record, Garrett Gordon, today on behalf of Panatone Development. I'll be presenting on, I appreciate we combined both items, so on the annexation, master plan amendment, and the zoning map amendment. I'll try not to be repetitive of what Brooklyn said, but again, here's the project area, total of 13 parcels, and again, it's just a half-mile north of the developing logistics center. It's just separated by undeveloped parcels with a water tank, so certainly a logical extension of that existing industrial corridor. And here is that corridor. So you can see from the master plan, south of 395, south of North Virginia Street in gray, that industrial logistical area has been extending pursuant to master plan policies northward. This property, a portion of it is currently in Washoe County, so could not have been part of this when this was adopted. So we're asking today to bring the property into the city of Reno, as well as extend this industrial corridor, which of course will, and I take this language right from the master plan, broaden the economic base through attraction of manufacturing and logistics operations. It leverages infrastructure, workforce, and assets for this type of project. We, of course, given the annexation, went to TRPA from day one, not TRPA, TMRPA, luckily this isn't next to Lake Tahoe, went to regional planning and made sure they had no concerns with regards to any regional conformance issues. You can see here a memo from regional planning. They have identified none conformance issues with regards to the regional plan. And why? Because the regional plan was recently updated and Tier 2 was put on this property, and that is high-density industrial, high-density opportunities where public facilities and services are planned. This is exactly where this property is located, right at the intersection of Red Rock and 395 north of railroad tracks. Access is planned from Red Rock Road via 395 and also an existing Marmac Street. And it's an ideal location for future development. It does improve access to parcels already in Reno. You saw Brooklyn's presentation, that large parcel to the south that's contiguous to the railroad is currently in Reno. So there's not only a little donut hole for county land, but there's a donut hole to get services to some existing City of Reno property. So making that connection up to 395, I believe, helps for public services as well. Infrastructure can easily be extended to the service site, water through North Virginia. We already have a well-served letter from Tumwa and sewer as well, and the staff report confirms there's capacity. Again, here's the map that Brooklyn showed. Again, the parcel to the south, 158 acres, currently in Reno. This is just connecting that dot between US 395 and existing City of Reno land. There was a positive fiscal analysis. That's a requirement whenever you ask for an annexation. It is positive. And on that green area, which is currently county, we've already been to the county because you can see there were numerous parcels and some roadways in there. We've already abandoned some of those roadways or right-of-ways, filed a parcel map to consolidate those parcels. So it's ready, primed and ready to come into the city of Reno very easily, given we did that work ahead of time. As Brooklyn mentioned, these properties would come in the city of Reno according to the conversion table, which would be large lot residential, and certainly that's not supported by the Tier 2 regional designation, which does encourage these high density projects and specifically mentions industrial nodes. So the master plan, again, would be mixed employment. You can see there in pink. As far as the green area, the idea was to not only promise there'd be a buffer to the existing residents, but actually put that in the master plan. So about a 300-foot buffer to the north, over a 1,000-foot buffer to the east, about a 100-foot buffer to the west. Again, trying to be compatible with our neighbors. Here you can see a hatched area up by Red Rock Road. The reason why we put this in here is some feedback we heard from the residents, but also, Councilmember Weber has been very vocal of trying to encourage some restaurants, some retail, some commercial in this area. So this 6,000 square feet of commercial retail is expected for commercial retail to serve this community. We can't put manufacturing, warehouse, or distribution in that hatched area. And rather, it encourages commercial and retail, such as a bakery, commercial kitchen, microbrewery, restaurants, to finally get some more services to the North Valleys. Here's the proposed handbook. You can see very similar to the master plan. We started with staff of asking for an industrial designation. You can see pretty much all the existing industrial uses heading up this corridor are gray and industrial. But that would have given us unlimited square footage and really not the ability to condition this project. So we instead backed off that idea and came up with the specific plan, which this body approved in their updated master plan, so we could have a handbook, have conditions, limit land uses, add buffering, add specific requirements for the Gateway District, and add also public access and connectivity concepts to make sure horseback riders and pedestrians and bicycle riders could still move through the property. Sustainability. So currently, there is no sustainability plan on the books. No ordinance. There's been a lot of discussion, and I understand it'll be moving forward to council very soon, but currently there's no requirement. Panettone wanted to go above and beyond. So they pulled your draft sustainability plan and put it in the handbook and said, rather than a kind of a complicated point system, they said, listen, of all the items that council and the planning commission have identified over the years, we'll make sure that buildings over 100,000 square feet can meet 6 of them, and buildings under 100,000 square feet comply with 3 of them. We took that concept to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission said, great idea, let's add some specificity to it. Let's add some enforcement mechanism to it. So this is what you're seeing here, had some valuable input from the Planning Commission. When we submitted this and moved forward in this process to City Council, we were contacted by Councilmember Doer and the sustainability manager as late as last night to try to do a little bit better as well. So we started with nothing, completely voluntary, tried to comply with 6 out of 17. You'll see before you, and I'm happy to go through this later if I'm running out of time. I see the clock's not running, so I'm not sure how much time I have left. But we came up with, again, some additional criteria. And what it would do, you can see, is letter 1A, all buildings have to have plants that should be native. So it wasn't going to be just voluntary, that's required for all buildings. Then you can see section B, there was 4 or 5 elements there that would have been voluntary. You know, you pick 6 out of 17. We're now saying all of those are mandatory for buildings over 100,000 square feet. And then finally, the remaining of them, 7 through 18, we're saying that all buildings have to pick 3 of those. So we started with nothing. Planning Commission Larger buildings would comply with 6, smaller with 3. We're standing before you today saying smaller buildings now have to comply with at least 4, and larger buildings with at least 9. So I think it was a good improvement. I appreciate Councilmember Doer and the Sustainability Manager providing this input, and I'm happy to spend some more time on that if necessary. Finally, the public meetings. We've had 2 public meetings, as Brooklyn mentioned, neighborhood meeting. About two folks showed up. We talked about drainage and access and utilities, and the NAB as well. There was a few comments. What we did as a result of those, that public workshop and neighborhood meeting and NAB, was, again, we focused on that gateway area, as Councilwoman Weber has been vocal about, trying to limit that area to manufacturing or logistics and instead encourage some commercial and retail. We also, you can see here in blue, agreed to install a screening wall for the properties to the north of Trail Drive and to the east of the project. 6-foot screen wall, landscaping will be on the front and really does provide some additional screening. Also, where that red dot is, there'll be a sign that says no truck access will be allowed to come down Trail Road. So either they'll have to turn right into Pad B from Trail or continue down Red Rock and access that potential pad from the south. So really got some good input from some neighbors, and I think it's a better project because of that. And finally, I know there's master plan policies. I've mentioned them before. A lot of them can be generic and argued either way, but if you look at the 2 in red here, it exactly follows what this master plan says, is support the continued growth of the city's logistics and manufacturing industries and leverage the region's infrastructure and assets to broaden the economic base through attraction of advanced manufacturing employers and modern logistics operations. Extension of this industrial corridor is following that policy to a T. The other one I'd mentioned in red below, which is also exactly what we're doing, voluntarily consolidate an assemblage of properties to improve and coordinate redevelopment of the block and to encourage developments like this. So Panettone spent a lot of time to consolidate these parcels, come up with a handbook that I think is a win-win and a good compromise and very compatible with the area. And there are a couple of future steps. If this is approved today, we will have to come back with a major site plan review for grading, for major drainage way issues. We're not talking about specifically the project today. We'll get into building pad sites and grading and drainage way issues at the Planning Commission in the next couple months. And if that was appealed, it would come to you. Staff's recommending approval. We support all staff conditions, and if there was a motion made in favor, we would certainly have no objection to including those updated, enhanced sustainability standards. So thank you for the time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilwoman Breckus.
Thank you. And I know we opened these up in one item for purposes of, delivering the presentations, but I hope we'll have time for adequate deliberation up here on the complexity of each component. And so I'm prefacing asking that we can have due time for consideration here under our rules and not shortened and abbreviated. My first question, Mr. Oswald, is do we have a 7-year plan of annexation, program of annexation? Because you said we had 2 ways, right? We can do voluntary, developer-driven, I'm adjacent, I want to come in. And then we can also look into the sphere, and the sphere is where we're going in 20 years, but the annexation program is where we want to go in 7 years. Do we have one of those plans, and have we identified this as within the 7-year framework?
I would have to do a little bit more research on where that exact policy and plan is on that 7-year. We have, with our policy of annexation, we have not moved forward with that. Obviously, within the sphere of influence, we do have the ability to go under that second, or would be Nevada Revised Statute 268 and 278.
Yes, I know what those are. Yeah. So we have a lot of policies in the master plan about annexation, and we have 2 ways we can go. One is developer-driven. I'm adjacent, I want to come in. But one is where we set it up in policy. Right. And in my experience, when we're going to these areas outside of the sphere, where you have already an established unincorporated neighborhood, you really jump into annexation consideration when you have that 7-year plan or you have an updated plan for the area. So I'm struggling with that, but obviously the annexation gets into a lot of other factors, the 10 factors. And you've found, or the staff who's worked on this, I know we've had a lot of turnover there, that all 10 are made. I want to ask a few more about those, but I really want to focus on islands. You said this is an island, would create an island of 60, and we haven't done a lot of annexation where islands come up. They become very problematic, and I'll just explain with that map. I saw a large industrial building where Reno police will be going to calls. But I also saw a lot of unincorporated neighborhoods where the sheriff will be going to calls. And that poses questions. What if it's a neighbor pulling out of their driveway, hit by an industrial truck? Who calls? They both roll. Problematic. That's why you do a little more work on your 7-year plan and your overall agreements with the agencies on how to deal with these areas when you're blending city and county. So that's question number one. A 60-acre island.
It's approximately 60 acres when you put the residential parcels together.
And does the law under the annexation way we're talking about say you can't create islands under 40 acres? Is that?
That is through 268, and that's specific to the city policy of annexation.
Okay.
On a voluntary annexation through 278, it does not address the creation of islands.
You can
under
create
40
the
acres.
tiniest little island just hanging out there all day. Okay, I am over. I'll yield, and I have other questions on the
Councilwoman
annexation. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Madam Mayor.
Thanks. Just a quick question for you and then for the applicant. So did you summarize for us for what the Planning Commission said? Because it sounded like there were different motions on different things.
They are. So the Planning Commission, they only hear the master plan amendment and zoning map amendment. So they don't hear the annexation. We discuss the annexation and the importance of that. 2 motions were made. One for the master plan amendment. A master plan amendment, as the same with this body, requires 2/3 vote. So it would require 5 votes. When they made that vote for recommendation, it was 4 in favor, 3 opposed.
I see.
So the motion failed and the recommendation
On the
failed.
master plan.
On the zoning map amendment, it is the majority. When that motion happened, it was 4 in favor, 3 opposed. And so that motion was approved and that recommendation of approval for the zoning.
We don't often, I don't feel like very often, sometimes get these kind of split votes by the Planning Commission. It's more like they're all in it or not, or maybe it's like 5-2 or 6-1, but I don't remember many 4-3. So I'm kind of interested to understand, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. That's there, here's here. So I did review this, and I just want to compliment the applicant on first of all, volunteering on the sustainability stuff, then working through the Planning Commission. It sounds like they had some ideas. And then, when I saw it, I was like, well, wait a minute, does this comport with anything, right? And I took a deeper dive. And so this is really a comment for our manager. So our manager, when I did reach out to our sustainability manager, because I'm certainly no expert on all this stuff. I know a few things pretty good, but she's the expert. But I found out that these applications do not go to her for review. So here's a group coming in, they want to do something, but they're not sure what the standards are. They're maybe negotiating at the dais with the Planning Commission. My recommendation is that I know you have a checklist when things come in, that you would just route it to her. So, get the best of what we got here at the city. Better yet, of course, would be to adopt our sustainability plan so everybody knows what the playing field is. So all that said, I just think we could have a practice improvement so I'm not scribbling stuff and you don't know if it's good or bad. They don't know if it's good or bad. I personally don't know if it's good or bad. It's just what I know. So all that said, I like how they reoriented this and they sent it to us, and I have a few thoughts on it. I'll start now, but I see I only have about 30 seconds left. So I'll just start with, first of all, yay, that you're applying one thing across the board to everyone. That's item A. B, you have said, hey, everybody should do these things. They're not optional. I think that's a fantastic way to go, and I really appreciate it. I want to come back. I'll come back on my second comment about the EV stuff. And then on the third, the EV stuff is how many chargers should you have a parking? A question, though, that to prep me for that is, how big are these buildings expected to be? I mean, I know they're not designed or anything, but are they 100,000 square foot, 1,000,000 square foot? What are they thinking?
They have requested through that SPD to develop over 500,000 square feet. So we
500,000.
didn't anticipate that would be 500,000 or above.
Each building?
Each building or
Okay.
above.
Okay, and then lastly on C, so I'll just wrap this up.
Councilwoman
yeah.
Brewer, I'm going to head over.
Okay, sorry.
Councilwoman
All right.
Breckus, unless there are other questions.
Well, I do have more, so I'll come back.
Okay, we're going to do that, but you're over.
Okay.
Councilwoman Breckus.
Thank you. And I am, as I said, I'm still pursuing my line of thought about the annexation. That's precursor to everything else. And so I think that's where my attention goes. The 10 review considerations under 268-670. I talked about adequate, what was the one? Well, we talked about islands. And I was also talking about the location in terms of the police, and fire. But I want to talk about number 4, planned water and sewer service. Is the area currently served by sewer lines?
It currently is not. That sewer line is on the other side of 395. With this development, it would be at the developer's dime, basically, to bring that sewer to this site. The city would require that they connect to city sewer.
And then when that line goes in up and passes through that neighborhood, that then triggers the law that all those folks have to connect to that sewer line if they're in close proximity.
It's within those distances.
Yes. So those people, those unincorporated residents will then become our sewer customers and won't have the opportunity, or
As they came in and changed, we wouldn't aggressively do that. As if they came in to develop on a piece of undeveloped project or a major major renovation of their home or something, at that time we would look to connect. We have had, I've had comments back and forth. There are residents out there that are actually very interested.
ready
in the
to hook up.
services that come
Yeah.
up.
Okay, and then I want to talk about the sewer service capacity up there. You said it's going as a project of regional significance on a sewer trigger. What's that sewer trigger of how many?
I would have to look, I can get that number for you and get it
Yeah.
on the next round. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's in state law, it's in the plan.
Yeah, within that.
I thought these industrials were very low sewer users, so I'm very surprised to hear that this is triggering a regional significance review on sewer use.
Yes, and as we know, we don't have an actual development project, and so we are taking that requested zoning map amendment, master plan amendment, and then extrapolating out what can be built. They are coming under that for sewage capacity. They may or may not hit that, but they want to make sure that it's reviewed and that we're looking at as a regional as that comes in.
Yeah, well, that raises the issue of the fragility of the sewer capacity there and the interconnected relationship of effluent. Mr. Flansburgh's here. How much sewer capacity do we still have until we bring the Stead plant expansion online? And how far are we off on being able to expand that plant, bring that plant online?
So for the record, John Flansburgh, Director of Public Works. As you're aware, we have a contract out that is finishing up for the expansion of the Stead treatment plant that will double the capacity. So that's part of the overall planning. On the effluent side, we have also engaged in 30% design as approved by council here for that effluent management piece. When we look at overall sewer planning, we look at in the sphere even of what we have in that area when we do the planning. And so we are going to from 2 to 4 million gallons. It's anticipated that we'll be going from 4 to 6 and even 6 to 8. And the overall long-range planning could be as high as 9.3, I think at 9.2.
It's really a timing question because we've seen, I mean, people will tell me, they're like, I was up there, 6 months ago and there's more warehouses. I didn't see them. So we know these people are going when they're going.
Right.
And I want, thank you. I'll have one more question. Just pause that. I would just want to ask you.
Go ahead, Councilwoman Dorr.
Yeah, thank you. If you could come back up. No, I'm sorry. Yes, our staff. So you mentioned that the buildings, each of them would be over 500,000 square feet.
We would anticipate anyway, it looks like there's potentially some smaller pad areas, so they could
Okay.
be smaller. I think we're going to see a
Okay.
variation.
And
And then
then-
we'd see probably up to 1 million square foot building.
Oh,
in
really?
those areas,
And
yeah.
then what about the parking? What are we looking at parking wise?
So parking will come under our Reno Municipal Code parking standards, so they will be required to, I don't have those, and it really depends on the development and what's happening and what
So
they're
we
proposing.
don't even have a rough number.
But they will have to meet all parking standards.
I get that. I'm
yes.
just looking for a number.
It is hard to say without knowing the actual
Okay.
development of
So
what would
this
be
goes back
developed.
to our manager. So the way this is structured in here, and I want to propose a change that they're offering this, and so I want to accept it with a slight change, but not the change I'm about to tell you. The change I'm about to tell you, Mr. Manager, is that apparently our staff and planning think about electric vehicle charging stations in terms of size of building. And that's why I'm asking these questions about the size of building. However, nationally, state of Nevada, Southwest Energy Project, they all deal with it in terms of parking spots, okay? And it's a ratio. You got so many parking spots, you put in so many, chargers. So the challenge for me for evaluating this is that, like, for example, in Nevada, every 100 parking spots would have 15 chargers installed. Every 100 parking spots, 15. In Denver, which they've adopted a code, that'd be 5. Okay, Nevada 15, Denver 5. In this project, it says 2 per 100,000 square foot building, and if we have a 500,000 square foot building, that would be 10. And these others are per 100 parking spots, not for your whole property. So I'm pleased that we're making steps. It's just that we're using the wrong units of measurement here. And we just got to sync that up to make sense with the rest of the world and even the state of Nevada standard. So we'll go with this, for now because we don't have a standard. But in our sustainability office, we do have a standard, and if we can start incorporating that. So the one change I would like to recommend on this, and I talked to Mr. Gordon about this ahead, and it's not going to be about anything complicated. But item 12 and 13, one talks about setting back storefronts and one talks about shade structures. You don't really do one without the other, and they just are the same thing, and I would just make them one thing. You might have to renumber this, but they're not like you do this one. You got to do them together to make any kind of sense. I could have also, and I probably should, they've also included a number 7, which is renewable energy, which is amazing, and that's doing it. And number 15 is sort of getting ready for it. Well, you're not going to get ready for it unless you're doing it. It's kind of a waste of money, right? If you're planning to put in solar, then you're going to make your roof ready for solar. It's not like you get credit for making your roof ready for solar, but you don't put it in. If it was me, and I mean, I'm not going to die on this, but I would have grouped those together. They're the kind of step 1 and step 2 of putting in solar. So that would be my recommendation is if we, and I would, whoever makes the motion, encourage you to adopt what the developers offered us here today. But I would add 12 and 13 together. And one more comment, if I may, I'm going to end. On item 16, I want to commend them for this R19. I just want to put them on notice, though.
Okay.
The building standard for the city is higher, and for roofs, it's like 25. So this is written as a minimum. And the final thing is I would just ask them, before they do anything, work with Suzanne Cronin. Okay?
Right.
Make it right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You kept going.
I'm sorry, but I don't want to talk
Well,
anymore.
I'm trying
and-
to make it equal because I know Councilwoman Breckus gets on me for when
I'm
she goes
sorry.
over, so I'm trying to be equal here.
Okay,
So
I
I just
understand.
want to point that out. It's not just one side.
I understand.
Okay, can you do me a favor, Mr. Gordon? One of the things is, how close approximately is the zoo?
Yeah, for the record, Garrett Gordon, just north of the project. If you pull up a map, I can identify the parcel.
And you have obviously reached out to them?
Absolutely. So let me just get a map to give you some orientation. There we go. So the zoo property is located approximately this area. You can see after working with them, we did redraw our plan to add an almost 300-foot open space zone, the master plan buffer. And as a result, on the record, they have submitted a letter that says, I'm writing this letter to let you know I have no objections. I truly believe this project will improve this North Valley area and bring with it new business. If you have any other questions, let me know. Cheryl Jones, Sierra Nevada Zoo.
All right, I really appreciate that.
And where
I
is the
didn't
zoo?
see that.
Where's the zoo?
You can see.
I didn't see the,
Right there?
do I have that in the record?
It should be on the record. Mickey, is that included?
I didn't see it. I don't think I have it, but I'll get a copy from you, Madam Clerk, because I think that's really, really important. And then you're doing that buffer, I think is that more than required right there? I don't even think it's required. Correct.
Go ahead, yeah.
Brooke Oswald, Associate Planner for the record. So no, at this time, they're not required to do that. What they've done is integrate that into the plan. And as you can see, that green that kind of runs around the perimeter helps to provide that buffer. That ranges from 100 feet to 1,000 feet, being approximately, as Garrett Gordon stated, about 300 feet then the roadway, then we would see development.
Okay, because I think that's really important. And then, Mr. Gordon, will you do me a favor? Will you, I just want you to go through these sustainability initiatives for me. Can you run through these?
No problem. So you should have it before you. It's 2 pages. So sustainability section 1A. So for all buildings, all the plants should be native, drought resistant with low pressure emitting drip systems. Before it was voluntary, but now that's required for all buildings. Section B are these 5 elements are now required for all buildings that are equal to or greater than 100,000 square feet. And to answer Councilmember Dewar's question, we envision most, if not all, the buildings will exceed 100,000 square feet, except for that gateway area driving in, which will include cool roofs by use of light-colored membranes with an initial solar reflectance of 0.68. That actual 0.68 came from the Planning Commission. The next one would be in-warehouse lighting consisting of skylights, LED lights, and daylight harvesting is important. Number 4, the night cooling through the use of air units that pull in outside air at night to cool off buildings from day to day. That's a requirement. Also, again, this was voluntary before, but now it's required that we include 2 parking spaces to be EV installed. That's not just the conduit, that's the actual complete charging station per 100,000 square feet. So you'll get numerous of those spaces depending on all the different building sizes. And finally, another requirement for all these larger buildings, interior water use to be 20% less than the code minimum. So a very drought specific condition by utilizing a combination of water conservation systems and appliances. And then talking with Councilmember Dewar, the idea would be to work with the sustainability manager on some of her ideas of how to accomplish that. So those are all required for the large buildings. And then finally, given it's a big difference between a 1 million square foot building and a little restaurant or brew house, you want to make sure the Councilmember Weber's point, we're not saturating the small building with too many conditions to not be viable. These 7 through 18, all buildings have to choose 3 of them. So the smaller buildings have to choose 3, and then the larger buildings have to choose 3 on top of the 6 that are above. So I think it's a really good balance. And to your point, Councilmember Dewar, on numbers 12 and 13, correct. We are okay with combining those to make it 1. So if you're going to do 1, you got to do, if you select that criteria, 12 and 13 would be combined. Yeah. Great. And with that, again, I'll just reiterate, appreciate the sustainability manager's input and happy to work with her as we move forward and hopefully setting a good benchmark for future projects that come before you.
All right, thank you so much. I just wanted that on the record. Thank you. Okay, we've been through all of our rounds. I'm going to send it over to Councilwoman Weber to give me a motion, please.
Wait, I have additional questions, and I'm going to ask for a suspension of the rules so that I can ask these additional questions on this annexation.
We're going to then go into the next item.
Well, no, I still have questions on the annexation, the 10 factors of annexation.
Well, we're going into another round on a different item. So
I still have
I guess
questions
if we
on the
want to suspend
annexation.
the rules, go ahead. Do I have to make a motion to suspend the rules?
You typically would.
Okay.
However, I think you can agree to suspend the rules But what I wanted to mention is I need to read this ordinance.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
C1. So.
Wait, hold on. Go ahead, Carl.
All righty.
Mr. Hall, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ordinance
you
introduction.
weigh in.
Bill number 7203, case number ANX 22-00001, Red Rock Road, Trail Drive Annexation. Ordinance annexing to and making part of the city of Reno certain specifically described territory of 12 parcels totaling 44.74 acres, generally located to the southeast of the intersection of Red Rock Road and Trail Drive. The subject site is located outside of the City of Reno sphere of influence and has the Washoe County Rural Residential Master Plan land use designation. Subject site has Washoe County zoning designations, which include 41.57 acres of high-density rural and 3.17 acres of public, semi-public. Ward 4.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, Councilman Weber, what would you like to do? I think it's a lot cleaner if we do one and then the next one so people can follow it. That's me personally. I'm happy to make a motion to suspend the rules, but I'm going to let me know.
I thought, if there was a motion on C1, for example, then there'd be discussion pursuant to the rules. So then that would give another opportunity to council members to speak on the item.
Sure.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
Motion on the first item.
so
Go
you
ahead,
go
make
ahead.
a motion on the first item, but that's the item that
Yes.
I believe that she,
Yes. You can have
okay, so we'll get to talk again.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Jean Harris, who came and spoke, and she has been absolutely awesome about our community in the North Valleys. And I just want to say thank you to her for coming forward and supporting this and talking to our neighbors. I think it's been really good. So thank you so much. I also really want to thank Brooke Oswald, because you are doing a great job, and I just really appreciate all the work that you've put into this. As well as, so I really wanted to say that, and thank Mr. Armstrong. We're going to reach out to Mr. Armstrong as well. I have not met him before, so I will reach out with him, because Panettone and this group have done a great job in working with the community. And I think I just want to say thank you. And I agree with the staff's analysis that the private consolidation and assemblage of several properties has provided the opportunity to plan a large area of land for an employment area in close proximity to a major roadway and workforce. In addition, the proposed project area is approximately a half-mile northwest of the developing logistic industrial employment corridor on North Virginia Street, and will leverage I just lost my place, and will leverage the area's infrastructure, workforce, and assets to broaden the economic base through attraction and expansion of manufacturing and logistics operations. Let me take a sip. I also agree with staff that the request is compatible with the surrounding zoning districts and uses. There is availability of public services, utilities, and infrastructure, and the request is consistent with the master plan. Therefore, based on the analysis in the staff report and today's presentations, I can make all of the required findings for the annexation. And if that's what we're talking about right now, then that's where I'll leave it. On the annexation. So item C1 is the annexation for, okay, and that's where we're stopping. Thank you. So that we can have more discussion. Thank you.
All right, so I have a motion from Councilwoman Weber. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councilman Breckes.
And I just want to ask, because it seems like a motion and a second got thrown on the table, am I still able to ask questions of people? I thought it was just discussion among ourselves when we have motions on the tables and other parties aren't able to participate. So what's the clarification on that?
Actually, I didn't even make
This
the
is
motion.
discussion.
Oh, I thought she did. Okay,
No, I didn't
Okay.
make the motion.
okay,
thought
okay, then my,
That was just that I agree
Oh,
with.
okay.
okay.
All right.
So my question on the sewer for, and obviously sewer's related to effluent.
Hey, wait a minute. I think we're confused. I believe
did
you're
not make a motion.
But you're supposed to make a motion. Am I right, Carl? Is that how you want to see? I'm thinking if we make a motion on C1 and then on C2.
I think
better? What do
Councilwoman
you
Breck
think?
is just wondering if she can continue to ask questions on the project. You know, she's been,
No, I know, but I want Carl to weigh in because I think I'm looking over at Madam Clerk and she's like, I'm confused. So I want to make sure we're doing it correctly and on the record. Tell me how you would like to
Right, so
see
we're going
that.
to take a motion on each item. There
So
has not been a motion on C1 as of yet, and I would ask that you suspend the rules and allow Councilmember Reckes to ask a couple more questions.
Okay, but we will take a motion on C1.
soon.
When a motion is made, yep.
Or
we'll
do you
take a
want
motion on that.
C1 and C2 together?
No, just C1, and then we'll move on to C2, and so on.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Councilwoman Breckus, so 3 minutes.
Thank you. So, Mr. Flansburgh, I have your memo of, or a memo on sewer will serve allocation for Risworth as of the 15th of this month, so very recently. You're showing that you've got currently flowing in the last 12 months, 1.78 MGD. But when I added up what you have as your allocation list beginning of January 1, 2021, which I presume are folks who are, you know, they can hook up. And then when I add in your projects and plan review, and then I add in what we're calculating for this project, if it is a project of regional significance, I looked it up myself in the regional plan and the NRS, and that's 187,000 MGD. And I presume if we send this over to regional planning as a project of regional significance, they get to come in on that list of guaranteed too. You know, you're over 2 million. And I thought we weren't going to go over 2 million. And I'm just tell me a date. When is the 4 going to go live? And when are you going to be able to take the effluent that goes with the 4 above what's going in now and put it in and do something with it? What are those dates?
So by the council, when you ask the dates, we actually have up to 2.5 million that is available, potentially be served. This council is only allocated at this moment in time 2.125.
Okay.
And so that's where we stand today. We have that excess capacity that we can tap into before we have the effluent management system in place. And we're looking at 2024, 2025, early 25 to have the effluent management system in place.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I appreciate that. I want to be very clear with the council. We're out of capacity, and we are not going to have it in time for these people to build. They are going to be ripping very fast on a build, and we are not going to have the MGD of the expanded plant ready to go until 24 or 25. I don't understand how we're going to be able to manage that effluent. I guess you think the shave is going to pull off more, but I just don't see it. I really do not see it. So explain to me again, because I've got a 2,016,000, and you feel under all current considerations with the shave and all, you'd have to come back to the council to ask, you can go up to 2.5?
That is correct.
Okay, so we've got 450,000 gallons still going, and I didn't count into, there's 1.5 out there in future projects, and so those aren't in there. So 1.5 if you take the shave.
When we allocate sewer capacity, it's at time of permit. And it's a first come, first served basis under the allocation program. Once 2024, 2025 comes into place and we have all that capacity, we can open up to 4 million gallons, the allocation program will go away.
Thank you very much. So for the record, are we out of capacity as Councilwoman Breckus asserted?
We are not out of capacity.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll turn it to Councilwoman Weber for a motion.
Thank you so much. So for case number ANX 22-00001, based on an evaluation of the annexation considerations in the Reno Municipal Code, I move to approve the requested annexation by ordinance with direction to establish ward boundaries as follows. Annexation of 12 properties totaling 44.74 acres with the APNs listed on page 3 of the staff report. I move to refer the applicable bill for a second reading and adoption.
Thank you very much. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
That was the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Discussion on the motion, please.
Okay, discussion?
You know, I am very concerned about this sort of annexation, creating islands, marching into unincorporated counties with hard land use oppositions. We'll get to those. Industrial next to residential, real tough. Outside of the program of annexation, creating islands that create response problems for public agencies. But the sewer, which by my calculations is $2,016,000. If this one comes in, puts us to have to go above the prudent place that we agreed to do on STED until it comes online. So he'll be coming back here asking us to take the STED sewer shed up to 2.5. And I am very uncomfortable with that. And that's a place I thought we weren't going to go. And I'm also concerned that we're creating jeopardy with all these people wanting to come on, and bringing this one in is going to cause uncertainty out there among the other folks who are fighting to come in and reserve this capacity, in addition to, the effluent flooding issues we've had. So I won't be supporting this. I don't see it meeting the 10 characteristics for annexation.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
One thing,
No.
sorry, one thing. I did just want to ask Mr. Gordon just really quickly, because Councilwoman Breckus brought this up, and I did read in the report, but I do want it on the record for fire safety reasons, please.
Yeah, for the record, Garrett Gordon, Stacy Huggins, planner with Wood Rogers, is here and has been excellent with drafting this handbook. She's worked from fire from day one, and there's been no concerns. And actually, I think they see a benefit in this because we're finally connecting 395 to a piece of property that's already in the city that they can't connect to without going through the county. So we're actually making it more contiguous for public services.
All right, thank you. Just wanted to make sure.
So are you saying the homes out there that would be served by Truckee Meadows, right? This property would be served by City of Reno? Is that correct?
That's my understanding, correct.
Yeah.
But what you're saying
Yeah.
is they can go through the county property because of this new road?
I'm saying currently, our project area to the south, that very long rectangle parcel, 148 acres that's on the railway, that's currently in the city of Reno.
Yes.
So you have to go through the county to get to a city property, and now you're making it contiguous. This would tie it together. Yes.
All right.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries 6-1. Madam Mayor, we're back to C2, I believe.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, Brooklyn, I believe it's all you.
Brooke Oswald, Associate Planner for the record. Once again, we did those presentations of the annexation and the master plan amendment as one. So
Anything you
I'm
wanna-
happy to go through that, or if you do have questions, we can go ahead and
Okay,
move through
thank
those
you.
questions on the master plan amendment and
Councilwoman
zoning map.
Breckus, I'm going to start.
Yeah. There is a very interesting statement in the plan, in your staff report to the Planning Commission. And you're saying that we have something called the structure plan. It's the broad areas identified in the master plan. And this land, and I'm not sure if it's 100% or all, but it's within the foothill neighborhood. And you mentioned kind of a throwaway sentence that if we approve this, then we need to change the area to, the equivalent mixed employment logistics. So one, is that a procedure that's going to happen, say amending the master plan to allow logistics in the foothill neighborhoods? Or why within the structure plan, are you saying logistics is in a suitable use in the Foothill neighborhood when it's clearly not?
Sure. So that Foothill neighborhood on that structure plan is applied per what we have currently there, which is a large lot residential, 2.5 acres per unit, right?
Yeah.
And so that's applying that Foothill structure plan over that. What we'd anticipate if this is approved and we're seeing this move into more of a logistic employment center, and we have that sort of happening identified in our structure plan to the east and on North Virginia Street, that it would be anticipated that we would see the structure plan being modified to represent this area as a logistics center off of that 395 and Red Rock Road exit.
See, I see it differently. You know, Nevada law requires development requests to be consistent with your master plan. And if you're saying logistics is okay in Foothill neighborhoods, then you're not, you know, it's clearly not. You know, you have these mixed employment logistics and you have the Foothill neighborhoods. And so approving one is not in conformity with the master plan because the master plan calls it a Foothill neighborhood. So I think that to follow the conformity construct of the NRS laws, you would have to make that change at this point and propose that to this body at this point. Did you all look at that application and say that a text amendment to the master plan should also go hand in hand with this?
As staff looked at it, and what we're seeing out in that area right now is that conformance review happening between our Title 18 update and our master plan is also happening at this time. So that could happen through that process. That could happen through the process of bringing that forward and modifying that. As those master plans are a living document, we would anticipate that it would change, and the mechanism or process to do that could go through different ways, but that master plan would be changed to reflect the underlying land uses that are there or approved through that larger master plan use. The structure plan would be modified.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have other questions on this if someone else wants to go.
All right, Councilwoman Dewar.
We started talking about the planning commission. They don't rely on the annexation, so we just did that. So now on the master plan, you said there were four, which is what we're on now, there's 4-3 votes. Can you just identify for us what the issues were? Were they just not comfortable? Were they concerned about the residents, the home?
Yeah, I think that it was, those were coming down, those master plan, some of those master plan policies of the rural nature of the area, sort of that concerns about the application of that master plan and that. So that was, yeah, we had three members who felt that the change was maybe not, is in alignment with the master plan.
I feel like it's not.
Yeah.
Some of them.
Yes.
So the question I have is, you know, a lot of times when we end up with industrial near residential, like what I've seen us do is put in buffers, separation, and I think I see it on this plan, but I don't know, is it the 300 feet? You know, that's the number I hear a lot, that there won't be anything in that 300 feet to sort of mitigate noise and other issues, but what is here? What have they done?
What we're seeing is several buffers around the surrounding three sides of the property. That ranges from 100 feet on the western side to 300 feet, kind of established 300 feet down the northern side to the eastern side is because we have a major drainage way through there.
Kind of hard to imagine all this without a map, but
Yeah, there are buffers on three sides ranging from 100 feet to 1,000 feet and sort of protecting some natural drainages and some other things in those areas.
okay, so the zoo, which is to the, I guess I would call it northeast,
Yes.
is there a buffer? Are big trucks going to go by the zoo? I know they signed off and they sent a letter and that was fantastic. I mean, and you're going to put a fence, it sounds like.
Yeah, up along.
Not you,
There's
but I mean the
certain
developer.
walls and certain concessions have been made to reduce overall impacts, traffic, noise, light glare.
Yeah, I know this has come up on a few projects in my ward, which is why I'm asking. People have been worried about startling animals, you know, whether it be trucks, clapping, amplified sound, you know, all of those kind of issues. So if they feel comfortable, I'm comfortable, but it is, you know, I also serve on the Washoe County Animal Advisory Board, and it's just, I get a little worried, you know, having daily traffic right next to, you know,
Certainly.
a zoo.
Understand on this, there's 300 feet, so that's roughly a football field that they have. It will be a natural buffer. But understand that on the other side of this is I-395. And so
Right.
there's an incredible impact
They're
noise coming
kinda
through. They're
in
wedged
between.
between the two. And so we would see the substantial noise probably from 395, faster traffic than the slower traffic that we'd see through the
Well,
development.
this will be the big trucks, right, with air brakes
Correct.
and, you know, all that goes along with big trucks. So just a concern, I mean, maybe the walls are on the south side, not on the side protecting the zoo, right? Is that correct?
They are down on some residential properties that we're seeing down below. Once again, it should be noted, we are anticipating because of the large format of these buildings that we'll see additional discretionary review by Planning Commission. And at that time,
I see.
we could look at those impacts directly of the development and then mitigate for those.
I would love to, and I'll end, I would love to see some kind of buffering on the side where the people are and the animals are from the road where the big trucks are going to be. So that's my thoughts. Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilwoman Brett.
And we're just on the master plan
Well,
resolution, correct?
C21 includes a specific plan district, so that's why I was trying to get into the
Oh,
details.
okay. Well, we're going to take, I mean, I'm talking on the resolution to change the master plan because it is absolutely precedent setting, in my view, to bring in a logistics land use into the Foothill neighborhood. That wasn't how the plan was set up. And I do believe that if we feel logistics is suitable in the Foothill neighborhoods, then we should change that text in the master plan. That should have happened this time, not part of the conformity plan. So I want the planners to take that back because, you know, we put a lot of effort into this master plan. It sends as a guidance for development requests to analyze those. And then there's a lot to do, you know, for consistency, conformity, a lot of analysis. But in terms of interpretation, I think it's a very poor one to say that the Foothill neighborhoods are going to be logistic uses. I think that should have been a larger policy discussion with the Planning Commission and us to understand if we want the Foothill neighborhoods to be places where logistics buildings are going. Because now we've set a precedent in absence of a policy discussion. And I find that very sad. I really find the integrity of this master plan very much throttled by this action. And it's very alarming to me, you know, as a planner and someone who advocated for us doing this plan. So that's a problem. Now, let me ask you about these public, quasi-public park land uses. Are those are going to be within the SPD, correct?
So there, once again, many layers. So those are, what are those are coming from, are a translation from the county zoning through that
gotcha.
annexation. So there was a roadway
Yeah.
that was recently
Yeah.
abandoned. It had it was
Okay.
right away, and so
Okay.
it became that public quasi.
Okay,
and
so it
that-
follows their lines.
Yes.
Gotcha. And that's a technique they've always done. Whereas I thought our planning framework was, we're not going to take the drainages and the other things that are really going to be responsibilities of the drainage to maintain and call them parks and recreation, because they aren't. They don't add that unless there's some infrastructure of recreation that is coming in. So I get that, but I am still so disturbed of bringing in a logistics facility up into a Foothill neighborhood. And I did not see this coming. I don't think it's right. So I won't be supporting this resolution. But when we get to the, I guess if we're going to move into the SPD, I'm prepared to talk about that next. So it looks like there's a caucus over there, but I'll just continue my line. Why an SPD? Why not just go into straight industrial? Is it so that they can carve this out and allow the 24-hour operation at this moment in time?
So, you know, that SPD is a new tool in our toolbox.
Yeah.
To look at these. There's many ways to go about it. We could have started higher and started to restrict,
Yeah.
or start lower and start to add, right? We felt that it was better to take the more restrictive zoning and then add, and then the other advantage to that SPD is to look at a larger area, understanding what was going to happen within that area, and have a little bit more control on how that development happened.
So let me tell you my
All right,
thinking on this.
Councilman Breckus,
Okay.
you're over.
Okay, if I can go again, I'll have more comments on this. Thanks.
So I think, because we've taken this process at a turn so that you could have more time, I think that's where there was some confusion. So, Madam Clerk, I think we're on one more round, correct?
So Councilmember Breckus has had 2, Councilmember Doer has had 1.
Okay. Councilwoman Dort?
I think I don't
one
have
more?
more.
No?
I think I've gotten most
Okay.
of it.
Any
I
other
mean,
council members?
I will
Yeah.
just say that, I will say something.
All right, so we've already gone 2 rounds. So with that being said,
She said I want one. I would like to
ahead,
just
go
say, I think it's very good that where the complex is, you're putting up fencing, right? To keep the noise inside. At the same time, I have to say this, noise bounces on both sides of fences, right? So what it will do, I'm just thinking, maybe it's a Stacy question. The noise from the road going by, the trucks, will bounce off that fence and send it back to the residents. And I'm just worried about that. And I don't know that walls can be built on the other side, but is that even practical? Could you just address that? Do you understand what I'm talking about, first of all?
Stacy Huggins for the record. I do. Is it possible to pull Garrett's presentation back up just so we can have an exhibit? I just want to get to this slide if I can.
Stacy, give us just a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. You're set.
Good. Okay. I think this is the
Yeah.
slide that's best to speak about it. And I think your biggest concern is the wall that we
Which I
worked
think
with
is
the
good.
neighbors with, right? We agreed to put in a wall along this future development pad. And then on the outside or the north side of that wall will
Right.
be landscaping, trees and shrubs to help kind of offset that noise. If I understand your question correctly, you're concerned about noise from Trail Drive coming back onto these?
And maybe I don't really, I mean, I guess if you could go back to a bigger picture that has a bigger view, I could probably explain it better. Okay, this is good. So you put the green buffer on the north of the road, and that road is not Trail Drive. Trail Drive's the one on the top, right?
Actually, where the cursor is Trail Drive.
Exactly.
The road here is North Virginia.
My
And-
concern was where the green is, south, right there.
Okay.
And then the zoo is right on the other side.
The zoo is up here.
It's right. Oh, they pointed it out.
This big parcel here is the zoo. So the project
Okay.
does
And
not
what's this
abut.
parcel?
These are privately owned parcels. This
Okay.
is someone who has a commercial horse stable business on this
Okay.
residential property.
All right, but still relevant because the last time I had to deal with this, it was about horses.
Sure.
So what's going to happen here is you have the cars coming down the yellow road, the trucks, right?
On
To
this-
enter the various pink areas. You have horses and people on the other side. All I'm asking about is they've got a green buffer space. Do they own that part of the property where the green is?
The applicant will own
Yeah.
that part of the property.
So my suggestion, take it or leave it, is to put fencing or something on that side so that you're protecting the people to the north. Maybe that's not, workable, but it's just what makes sense to me. So think about it. I'm not going to ask for any conditions, but I think when it gets to planning commission, you said they have to look at site-specific things. I think that's a good idea. Last question. Up where you have the hatched, where the commercial area is, right to the right is this little pink. Is that owned by the applicant?
It is owned by the applicant.
My recommendation in talking to Councilwoman Weber is just to consider expanding that, not more industrial right there, but more expansion of your effort to bring commercial. You might bring in a dry cleaner, but what about the, I hate to say, fast food restaurant or the grocery store or the minute market or whatever it is? It just seems like it could benefit the area.
I think we have had some discussions internally about what will happen with that parcel, and we appreciate your comments and suggestions. And so I think, we identified this, this is a parcel at this point. And so we identified it as the gateway to this project. We hadn't initially had a plan for this piece, but it's very likely that it could be an expansion
Seems
of
too
the
small
commercial
for a
uses.
big building, so I'll
Yes.
just stop there.
Anything else for me?
Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Councilwoman Weber.
I better turn the microphone on.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you. For case number LDC 22000018, I move to approve the master plan amendment by resolution and the zoning map amendment by ordinance, subject to the approval of the associated annexation and approval of the
Sorry,
conformance.
Madam Mayor, can we stop? We need Carl Hall to read the bill number in if we're going to do the full approval.
Go ahead.
Sorry for the interruption.
Good idea. Thank you.
So, Madam Clerk, are you talking about C23?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know we were on that item yet, but anyway, ordinance introduction, bill number 7204, ordinance to amend Title 18, Chapter 18.02 of the Reno Municipal Code entitled Zoning, rezoning plus or minus 207.35 acres of large lot residential, 2.5 acres per dwelling unit, and plus or minus 3.17 acres of public facility to plus or minus 210.52 acres of specific plan district. The 210.52 acre site is generally located to the southeast of the intersection of Red Rock Road and Trail Drive, together with other matters which pertain to or are necessarily connected therewith, Ward 4.
All right, thank you. Okay, go ahead, Councilwoman Weber.
If it's C23 that we're
I think we're on C21.
No.
C21.
C21. That's all right. Go ahead. Next time, we're
We've
going to
already
take
voted
these in
on
order
C21
because
No,
by
we
taking them out
voted
of
on
order,
C1.
it's really messed up the process.
C1.
So
C1. So
I
sorry.
apologize, Councilwoman Weber.
apologize.
We won't do that again. We will keep it to how
It's-
we usually
it's-
run the meeting.
I'm so
It's
sorry.
not confusing. It's all right. Go ahead.
She just got her numbers mixed up.
No,
Okay.
I know, but it's probably,
So C21
There you go.
is, let me ask this, master plan zone change and project of regional significance. Okay, thank you. For case number LD-C22-00018, I move to approve the master plan amendment by resolution and the zoning map amendment by ordinance, subject to the approval of the associated annexation and approval of the conformance review by Truckee Meadows Regional Planning of the associated master plan amendment.
all right, thank you. I have a motion.
I'll second.
I have a second. Thank you.
With
Go
the
ahead,
second.
Councilwoman Dewar.
Yeah, I would like to add the sustainability conditions that the applicant has proposed, because I think they go with the SPD, which is part of this motion, with the one change that Mr. Gordon agreed to, which is combining item 12 and 13. And with the second proviso, many of these are drafted as minimums, and therefore there's an opportunity to consult with our sustainability manager on what the best course of action is. So I would just ask for consultation. And then 3, last thing is on item 18, where it's all about conduit. I'm just going to put in a pitch when you go consult with her. It is incredibly less expensive to put in the conduit when you're putting in the parking lot, not have to tear it up 2 years from now. So when you're consulting with her, please talk about that. The state would require 40 sites of 100 to be conduit ready. Denver would require 10. I think you're doing 2 per 100,000. It's very hard to equivalate those, but it's worth a conversation. They don't want to have to tear all this up later. So, do it while the getting's good. So, anyway, adopting this recommendation with consultation of the sustainability manager.
Thank you.
Okay.
Included in that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I have a motion. I have a second. Councilwoman Dewar, you had your words.
What?
Councilwoman Breckus.
Yeah, thank you. Just like Mr. Hall wasn't tracking what item we were on, I feel that I was deprived my opportunity to also ask on the zoning change. I had concluded my line of questioning on the master plan resolution, but I was deprived an opportunity to ask on this massive zoning change. So I'll just comment on it right now, because I don't understand that. I believe that once a motion is made and on the table, that it's just this body talking. I am having a problem with the zoning change to specific plan district. Specific plan district, it's a new tool, but it's actually an old tool. And it's an old tool that worked very well, but then it became abused, and it saw that there was too much spot zoning, if you will, to use that term loosely, contract zoning. And I advocated for it to come back, but and I haven't seen it come back in a way that caused me pause, but this one really does, and I'll explain why to the council. If, we want to annex, which we did, if we think it's okay to put logistics into the structure, foothill neighborhoods, and which we did, but we want to change the zoning, it should go to an underlying base zoning. There's no need for a specific plan district, in my view. Actually, the precedent very recently in this area shows quite the opposite. We've been doing industrial, commercial developments all along this North Virginia corridor, completely to the south, for 3 years now. So bringing in a specific plan district, I don't see that it adds anything more. As a matter of fact, I see that it gives a great loophole in there, and it's going to allow 24-hour operations. And I'm very concerned about that. We have, it's just, I cannot understand why we're adopting a specific plan district, and I'm just calling that out as one item in this, because I, did not get to go through my line of questioning. But a 24-hour operation right here, as right, not a discussion by the Planning Commission, in the corridor, North Virginia corridor, closest to the most neighborhoods. Maybe you could, I just don't get that. And then you have this zoo use there, 24-hour operation. As a matter of fact, I think I've looked very recently in the intakes, and one of the big boxes, one of the distribution warehouses that has come in, is asking now, coming back separately for 24-hour ability. Some have been restricted to 24-hour, and we're just carte blanche giving it out right now. And I'm very concerned about that. That is going to cause problems, and it's what I saw in the SPD under the slideshow by the presenters. I also want to talk about the sustainability. There's a lot being done in sustainability, and what's been offered up today is greenwashing. Some logistics development areas are giving air filtration and noise mitigation solutions to impacted homes near facilities. Some are giving, having to electrify their logistics equipment from trucks to forklifts. None of that is on here. So we're not following best practices in sustainability on this. Obviously, we don't have a sustainability ordinance. That the council took a pass on a while ago. But when we're adding them on in one project, let's add the best that we can, and I don't see that those were added in by this amendment to the SPD. But I'm very concerned about the 24-hour on the zone change. Thank you. I'll be voting against this.
Madam Mayor. Yeah, a question on that, and it's really for our staff. So we have been so careful on these kind of logistics centers, to orient them so the trucks come in and out and the noise goes a certain direction, to restrict 24-hour in certain places where it is near residents. And could you just address it? I mean, what's the opportunity? When it comes back for more detailed planning, is that when a noise ordinance, or does this guarantee them? I mean, I want to make sure I understand.
As far as, and so if those projects come forward and they don't hit those triggers for additional discretionary review, so we'd anticipate that would mostly be for our cuts of over 20 feet and our fills for over 10. They would move forward under our current code and what our current code does. We do have sound ordinance in place with those residential units. Those do come into the building permit, and we have additional walls required between uses, orientation of loading docks and loading areas. And so there's a number of other things we have within code that we start to analyze and look at when we have a specific project come in.
Okay, but it is 24.
Yes, they are allowed, what they have done, that we do allow 24 in our industrial zone. The ME does not allow that. What they've asked, it's an industrial light, so they get a lot of the constraints of those uses of the mixed employment, restricting those heavier industrial uses of grinding plants or asphalt plants. So it's more based on that. But they do want that 24 hour because of truck traffic coming and going.
Why they were doing an SPD was that they had a mix of this commercial retail combined with the industrial. That was my understanding. Was that one driver for the SPD?
Yeah, I think that is a portion that it provides, that ability not to rezone and to get them the other, it provides those ability to implement sustainability standards or more enhanced buffering. Additionally, it provides a look at 200 acres as kind of a master plan versus seeing it coming in parcel by parcel, piece by piece, and understanding the infrastructure and everything in place.
I like the use of the SPD. You know, I really do. I advocated for the change back. I think when we have this opportunity, it is everything's incumbent on us because it's all going to be in the handbook. And if it's not in the handbook, we've missed that opportunity. Yes. So I think, when we do get these SPDs, it's really good to, you guys might have to take extra attention, spend a lot of time with all the nuances because you're kind of once and done. So I'll just leave it there. I'm still supportive, but, I wanted to understand about this 24 because we have been very concerned about it in the past.
Yeah, and that would benefit both those commercial uses that we'd anticipate off freeway. You may see 24-hour use of
like a gas station,
or food service or something else of that nature. Yes.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. Go ahead, Councilman Reese.
Madam Mayor, I'll be very brief. I just want to say, in response to an unkind comment, I don't think this is an example of greenwashing in any way. Ms. Dewar worked incredibly hard on some of these standards, as did Ms. Groneman. And Ms. Dewar's, I suppose, more polite than I'm feeling today in that regard, because the truth is that the things that were asked for and advanced through this process, because I asked a lot of the same questions when I was inquiring, and what I was told is that Ms. Dewar had already addressed them. And so we don't have the opportunity, of course, and the public understands that we don't deliberate in that way privately amongst one another. So when I ask a question of an applicant or of staff and they say, good question, but it's already been dealt with, Ms. Groneman and Ms. Dewar have done the work. It is curious to me that that comment was made, and I just felt it was inappropriate. Moreover, I suppose in any sustainability effort, you can't do everything. Sometimes the doing everything starts to go off the rails because it makes a project not pencil, or maybe it's not technologically feasible yet, but you do what you can with each project. And each of those things adds to, I think, a very important statement that our community has made about the sustainability and resilience issues. So, tearing down the efforts of either a colleague or Ms. Groneman, I think is inappropriate. So I'll just say, I think that many of the standards, and I suppose I should thank the applicant's representatives, many of these things that were in the sustainability, although I'm not an expert in some of the building codes, like Ms. Dewar mentioned about the R19 installation being a minimum level. Yeah, we want them to go above and beyond. Minimum is the minimum. We like things to go beyond that. And so I thank the applicant and the representatives for working with Ms. Groneman so closely, and Ms. Dewar, especially in that regard. So those are my comments. I'm prepared to.
And thank you, Mr. Reese. I need to give the credit, though, to the Planning Commission. This didn't start with me. All we did, Ms. Groneman and I, was put some finishing touches on, seriously. And to your point, we just need a kind of a standard path for everyone, so it's not sort of one-offs, right? We need to have this sustainability plan adopted, and we're all working from the same page. So thank you for your comments, but I gotta also throw it to.
How long did you work on it?
A number of hours.
Okay.
Quite a few hours, but.
And we appreciate that.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, probably 10 hours, but I mean, I'm sure other people worked on it longer,
No, but I'm sorry that other council members degrade that, and that's not okay. And thank you, Councilman Reese, for bringing that up, for being kind and recognizing the work that you put into it. It does mean a lot, so.
Got it.
Madam Mayor,
Can I just say something as well? Thank you so much. I appreciate all the work that you did on this, as well as I want to thank Panettone.
Right.
These folks are out in Ward 4, all up and down 395. They've worked hard. They are very willing to work with folks. They go beyond everything that I've seen in the production and what they've been doing. So I just want to say thank you to Panettone as well, because they're willing to do
100%.
more.
It's not required. It's not
Exactly.
required. I mean,
And-
at the end of the
and-
day, that's my main point. Nothing's required, and they're coming forward to do it. And thank you to the Planning Commission too for even asking, right, the question. It's
Yes.
really good. It's a partnership.
Thank you.
And Brooklyn, for all your time, and honestly, I know I see your car way past the time you should be here at night, many of our staff. So I know you guys care and you do a great job, so I appreciate it. Because it's really easy to make a project sound like a monster, and that's really, really unfortunate when thousands of hours go into it, lots of work, lots of dedication, like you just talked about, from everyone involved. It's really easy to sit back and say, no, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. But it takes a lot of work just to get here, and I just really want to thank our staff, so thank you.
Madam
All right,
Mayor,
so we have a
Madam
motion and
Mayor,
a second. All
Madam-
those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
Madam Mayor, may I say something?
All right, we're moving on.
May I make a comment, Madam Mayor?
I think we're going to take a break now. We're going to go into lunch. That's 12, pardon? We don't have anything left? Okay. You want to get through 'em? Okay.
Right, so right now we're on C22, so I'm looking for a motion regarding the resolution, approval of the resolution, subject to conformance of review by the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Commission.
Can I just make that motion? I move to approve the resolution subject to conformance review by the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency.
I have a motion. I have a second.
Discussion?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to comment upon this working on the project concept. I have concerns when we have applications that have certain considerations of, and this one is borderline, in some areas it is, in some areas it isn't, but that individuals in our seat get involved, whether it's in side meetings and, I'd like this language or that language. I think it biases us on a decision when we ultimately are sitting at this table. And I think it's not fair, deliberative, transparent processes. So I don't engage in that generally. On a zoning change, on a master plan, maybe, but on an SBD that assigns a lot of property rights, like the right to 24 hours, I just choose, and I believe it's consistent with the best advice that we've had legally, to not be worker bees in terms of what's drafted before us and have conversations and quote, work on the project to make it better. I think really that's staff's job, and then it's our job to sit here unbiased and uninvested in what's come before us. Thank you.
All right, Vice Mayor Jordan.
Thank you very much. I completely disagree with what the council member from Ward 1 says. I think it's our obligation and our duty to our constituents to be involved from the outset of these projects in order to make them better. By not involving yourself in them and being part of the process and collaborating and communicating, you are doing a disservice to the constituents and the community by completely putting a wall up and then throwing rocks at it when it comes before us. Engaging initially allows you a conversation to make things better. That is part of our job. It is our job.
We're elected to do that.
All right, so now we're moving on to C23, and I'm looking for a motion to refer Bill number 7204 for a second reading and adoption.
Thank you so much. I'll make the motion to refer, I'm sorry.
Call for the vote on C2.
Oh, I thought we did.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Post.
Motion carries. Okay, go ahead.
I move to, if I may, I move to refer Bill number 7204 for a second reading and adoption. Thank you.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Post.
Motion carries. All right.
All right, Madam Mayor, we're moving on to item D1. Oh, D1 was pulled. I'm joking, that's not real. We are looking to open the Redevelopment Agency Board, so at this time, I'll go ahead and take roll call. Councilmember Breckus?
Here.
Dorr? Delgado? Weber? Jarden?
Here.
Reese? Sheeby?
Here.
Madam Mayor, you do have a quorum of the Redevelopment Agency Board. We have no public comment registered or received by the city clerk's office, so at this point, we're looking at item L3, approval of the agenda.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Item L4, approval of minutes for January 26th.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
All right, we have no public comment. Is there any comments from the body on Redevelopment Agency Board?
Any comments? Seeing that there are none.
Okay, motion to adjourn redevelopment.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, so we're going back to our regular agenda. We're on item H1, city council comments.
All right, any comments from city council?
Madam Mayor, could I just make a quick comment?
Yes, please.
I just wanted to share that we had our 2022 Nevada League of or National League of Cities Congressional City Conference this last week. And there was really some good productive meetings with Senator Cortez Masto and Senator Rosen and Congressman Amodei and their teams. So that was really a good thing. I won't read all of this, but I do want to share that while we heard many great presentations, it was exciting to hear directly from President Biden, Secretary Pete Buttigieg, and even Congresswoman and Nancy Pelosi.
We have a lot.
Directly. They were there.
Oh, nice.
Wow. It was really cool.
Oh, good.
There was a lot of work on affordable housing, a lot of great
I
things.
heard it was good.
Homeless.
All
Great.
right, that's fantastic. Okay, any others from council? The only thing I would say is congratulations, it'll be the first city of Reno's river cleanup. It's the first city sponsored in the city of Reno. I want to make that clear. It's not the first river cleanup, but it's the first of city of Reno's sponsored river cleanup. Councilman Breckus, did you want to say something?
I'll wait for you to be done.
Okay. And so I just want to say thank you. We have a lot of volunteers coming out on Saturday and, show up, and we'll be meeting right down at the park at 9 o'clock. And this is one of many that we're all going to be sponsoring and getting out there. So I hope to see all of you. Councilman Breckus?
I don't have any comments, Madam Mayor.
Okay. All right. Councilman Reese? Nothing? Okay. All right, Madam Clerk.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. We're moving on to item J, which is our closing public comment. We don't have any registered at this time. However, it should be noted that we did receive one comment of concern, which has been distributed to the council. Additionally, we have a voicemail which has vulgar content in it, will not be played at this time, but has been distributed to the council as well. So I am just looking for a motion to adjourn.
All right. I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. All right.
Attorney-client.
We're going to go into attorney-client.